Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 1, Father and Son. Hog's eyes were moist. His body trembled from excitement as he carefully looked at this familiar-feeling youth. He looked at those eyebrows, those two eyes, that nose. At the same time, he compared them to the memories he had of the young Linley. Linley, it really is you. Hog's voice was hoarse, and his eyes were red. It's me, father. It really is me. Linley impatiently wanted to prove himself. Father, do you remember how, back when we were in our ancestral hall, you asked me to pay my respects to the ancestors of our clan? Do you still remember how you tested me for the dragon blood in my veins? And, I told you that I had 3 good friends at the institute. 2 of them are here. Linley immediately pointed towards the nearby Yale. Look. That's Yale, of the Dawson conglomerate. And there, that's George of the Yulan Empire. And me. BB flew out as well, staring at Hog. Uncle Hog, remember me? I'm that little shadow mouse. As he spoke, BB's body flickered as he transformed into a little black mouse, hopping onto Linley's shoulders while still speaking in the human tongue. It was Boss who raised me. Hog repeatedly nodded. Father, look, the Coiling Dragon ring. You know about it, right? Linley stretched out his ring. Hog, hearing this, began to weep from joy. Right. He couldn't help but stretch his arms out, taking Linley into his embrace. He clapped his hands against Linley's back repeatedly. Ha ha, it really is you. Linley. This is wonderful. Ha ha. This really is wonderful. Hog was so excited that he was stammering. He had died, then been transformed into an undead. He had spent 2,000 plus years as an undead, then suddenly regained his memories and been brought here. And then, his son had suddenly appeared in front of him. How could he not be excited? Not be happy? Father, come. Let's go inside. Let's go inside and chat. Linley wiped his tears dry, then immediately took his father by the hand and led him flying towards the rear courtyard of the Abyssal Inn. To be able to see his father was a sort of joy which surpassed the joy and excitement Linley had felt upon finding out that he had become a soul mutate. Linley felt like he had returned to his youth, when he learned from his father regarding culture and more. Whenever he didn't do well, he would be hit on the palm. Back then, he felt it was quite painful, but thinking back to it now gave him a warm feeling. The death of his father had caused Linley to sink into an abyss of darkness. He was willing to give up everything for revenge. But now, everything was better. Within the room, a group of people were seated around 2 tables, while Hog was still feeling completely mystified. He hurriedly asked Linley, Linley, what is going on here? Before, I was a saint-level Black Knight. How did I suddenly regain my memory and be brought here, then see you? Hog had never heard of an undead regaining its memories. The boss asked the sovereign to do it. BB chortled. Ha ha. The nearby Dixie sighed, then said, Uncle Hog, in the past 2,000 years, Linley has gone beyond just being a genius student at the Ernst Institute. He is an expert who stands at the very peak of the netherworld, the Infernal Realm, and the other higher realms. It was he who asked the sovereign to restore all of our memories and send for people to find us, then bring us here. Myself, Yale, and George, we were all brought back by 7-star Spectre-level experts. He asked the sovereign to find us, and even arrange for people to bring us. Hog couldn't help but look at his son, who stood before him. In the Yulan continent, Hog knew that his son had potential, but Hog only believed that Linley would one day become a powerful magus, or perhaps even bring back their family's ancestral heirloom. But, ask a sovereign for favors? Hog felt his head spin, just thinking about it. Linley, how are you? Hog didn't even know what to ask. Ask about his son's level of power? what his son had been doing these years. Boss is a high god paragon, BB said proudly. The nearby Yale and the others, over the past few years, had learned this as well. What's a paragon? Hogg asked. BB was startled. Previously, Yale and BB's parents were also unaware of what being a paragon meant. Only after hearing an explanation did they understand. BB's mother, that violet-robed woman, said with a laugh, Hogg, being a high god paragon means, amongst deities, your son is an unmatched individual. Even sovereigns would warmly invite him to become an emissary for them. Amongst deities, he's unmatched. Hogg blinked several times, staring at Linley in astonishment. Hogg had the sense that everything that had happened today, seeing Linley, hearing all these things, was all a dream. Hogg's reaction was what everyone had thought it would be. When Yale and George had asked about Linley's abilities, after they were given clear answers, they had also been stunned for a long time. Everyone knew exactly how many deities there were in the Netherworld and Infernal Realm. They were counted in the trillions. There were countless deities in the countless planes. How terrifyingly powerful must one be, to stand at the very top of this pyramid? Hogg had experienced 2,000 years of life in the undead realm, and his mental fortitude was now much greater than before. He quickly recovered, then his eyes lit up and he asked hurriedly, Linley, your mother's death. It was that Duke Patterson of the Kingdom of Fenley, were you able to get vengeance? He died. I personally killed him. Linley said solemnly. And the person behind him? Did you find out who it was? Hogg said frantically. Hogg had found out that behind Duke Patterson, there was yet another figure controlling things from behind the scenes. However, he was attacked and pursued by Patterson's forces before he was able to figure out who that person was, and then Hogg had died. I did. Behind him was the King of Fenley, Clady. Linley nodded. Afterwards, in the city of Hesse, I killed Clady. It was King Clady. Hogg was stunned. Although I killed Clady, this matter still wasn't finished. Mother had been offered by Clady to the Radiant Church. It was the Radiant Church which killed my mother, then offered Mother's soul to the Chief Sovereign of Light. Linley's voice was very low. Linley still harbored tremendous hatred for the Radiant Church. It could be said that Doering Coward also died due to the Radiant Church. Hogg, hearing this, frowned. A baleful aura gathered on his face, and he said in a low voice, the Radiant Church. Afterwards, I eradicated the Radiant Church, pulling them out by the roots. Linley continued. Hogg glanced at his son, startled. In the Yulon continent, the Radiant Church had been an enormous entity. Still Hogg knew that, logically. Given that his son was now at the peak of power, it made sense that in the past, he would be capable of eradicating the Radiant Church. Everything has been resolved. Hogg let out a long sigh, then shook his head and laughed self-mockingly. I was too stubborn. It has been 2,000 years, but I still haven't been able to forget these matters. Still, what's the point of thinking of them? Lena died long ago. Father. Mother didn't truly die. Linley said. Hogg's eyes instantly lit up, and he appeared full of energy as he stared towards Linley with hope in his eyes. Linley nodded solemnly. Father, when Mother was killed, her soul was offered to the Chief Sovereign of Light. She should currently be one of the angels of the Divine Light Plane. Only, those who have been transformed into angels are absolutely loyal to the Sovereigns of Light. To help Mother acquire her freedom and have her be with us again will be very hard. Even you cannot accomplish it. Hogg asked hurriedly. Currently, as Hogg saw it, given that his son was one of the most powerful of deities, and that even sovereigns would fight over having Linley be an emissary for them, his son's status should be enough for an angel to be restored to her free will. Hogg felt that this shouldn't be hard. I have no confidence in being able to do so. Linley shook his head. The nearby BB said, a sour look on his face, the chief sovereign of death said that even if she personally went to speak to the chief sovereign of light about this, it still would be unlikely. For even the chief sovereign of death to be unable to accomplish this, the chances of boss going and succeeding are most likely very, very low. BB didn't have any confidence in Linley either. Linley himself felt rather guilty over this. Haha, forget it. Hogg let out a long sigh, then laughed. Linley, we should thank the heavens that the two of us, father and son, are able to meet again. To reunite with your mother as well? That's just a vain hope. Don't worry about it. That's just looking for trouble. Father, Linley looked at his father, astonished. From the final letter his father had left before his death, Linley understood how deep his father's love for his mother was. His father was willing to die for her, why was he now willing to give up so easily? Forget about it? How can everything in the world truly be perfect and as we desire? Hogg said with a soft laugh. That very day, Hogg, Linley, Yale, George, and the others began to energetically discuss the various matters that had happened to their homeland, the Yulon continent. Afterwards, Hogg began to discuss his life as an undead, while Linley discussed his experiences over the past 3,000 years. Hogg now truly understood how long a journey Linley had embarked on. He felt worried each time he listened to Linley narrate one of his dangerous experiences, but at the same time, a feeling of pride swelled within his chest. In front of the Abyssal Inn, Linley's group was preparing to depart. Wait a moment. I'll come over in a bit. Linley said to his father and friends, then walked to the pool which was in the center of the grassy area close to the Abyssal Inn. Next to the pool, there was a beautiful, red-haired maiden who was fishing happily. Others didn't know who the red-haired maiden truly was, but Linley knew. She liked to personally witness one expert of the netherworld after another come here in search the abyssal fruit, then die. The chief sovereign of death. Putting aside her fishing rod, the red-haired maiden turned to glance at Linley. What, you are leaving? Linley could notice the spatial distortions nearby. The chief sovereign of death had created a spatial barrier, preventing others from listening in and preventing their words from leaking out. Linley sighed inwardly at the terrifying strength of the chief sovereign of death, then replied, Yes, sovereign. The 6 people I was waiting to receive have already arrived. Thank you, sovereign, for the pains you have taken over during this period of time. The red-haired maiden smiled slightly, revealing pearly, pristine white teeth. The first time I saw you, you were just a little fellow who had just barely reached the level of a commander. In the blink of an eye, you've become a paragon. Sovereign, there is one last thing I would like to ask you to help me with. Linley hesitated slightly, then spoke out. You really are troublesome. Speak. Over the past few years, Linley often met the chief sovereign of death around the Abyssal Inn, and so their relationship had improved significantly. Sovereign, I wish to find a 7-star spectre named Odin. I don't know if you have any method by which you can accomplish this. Linley asked expectantly. During this recent time period, Yale had always wanted to go find Odin, but unfortunately, the netherworld was endlessly vast. Although Linley was powerful, looking for Odin was like searching for a needle in the sea. Find a 7-star spectre? Odin. The red-haired maiden frowned slightly. She couldn't help but give out a faint snort. Do you really think that I'm bored and have nothing better to do? I have no idea what sort of spiritual aura this Odin of yours has. All you give me is a name. How am I supposed to find him? Unless, of course, he was once undead. Only then can I use the netherworld heart to look for him. Otherwise, there is no way. Linley could only laugh awkwardly. It was indeed hard to find someone with just a name. It was precisely because it was hard that Linley had come to bother the chief sovereign of death about this. Linley thought that the netherworld heart would be able to find him, but from the sound of it, only those who had once become undead could be found through the netherworld heart. To find a single person shouldn't be too hard, given your current status. The red-haired maiden laughed softly. Just find a spectre castle and issue a mission. Say that you want to find a 7-star spectre named Odin. The missions that you, Linley, issue. I imagine there will be some commanders and lord prefects who would fight over the chance. Perhaps few ordinary high gods would have heard of Linley, but amongst the commanders and lord prefects, within 1,000 years, most likely all of them would have learned of his name. The red-haired maiden then turned her head and went back to her fishing. Enough. You can leave now. Thank you, Sovereign. Linley bowed slightly, then turned and left. Let's go. Let's go to the sacred undead mountain. Linley smiled towards his father and his friends, then released an enormous metallic life form. It hovered there in midair, and then this group of experts boarded it. With a flash, the metallic life form transformed into a speck of light, disappearing into the horizon. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 2, An Inescapable Calamity. The metallic life form advanced at high speed, and within it, laughter rang out uninterrupted. Boss Yale, don't worry. Third bro gave you his word. Odin is definitely going to die. George snickered nearby. Yale's hatred towards Odin had sunk into Yale's very soul. Unless and until he truly killed Odin, Yale would forever feel a thorn in his heart. Yale nodded, then chuckled towards Linley. Sorry to trouble you, third bro. From the abyssal mountain to the sacred undead mountain will take quite some time. Linley said with a laugh. On the way over, I'll use my divine sense to search, and also control the metallic life form to fly by some important areas. Perhaps on our journey, I will find Odin. Linley's spiritual power was more powerful than even when using Sovereign's might. The spatial bindings controlling the netherworld were far weaker than those which controlled the planar battlefield. In the netherworld, through using his divine sense, Linley was able to reach to a distance of 8 million kilometers. The metallic life form which Linley controlled could roughly fly 10 million kilometers each day. At this speed, Linley only had to search once a day. Searching personally, and issuing a mission, these were two methods. If searching failed, then he would issue a mission. Given Linley's prestige and power, finding Odin wouldn't be hard. If we find him on the journey, that would be wonderful. Yale said with a smile. Linley, seeing Yale like this, couldn't help but sigh mentally. In the past, Yale had always been dissolute, free, and easy. But now, Linley realized how great a mental pressure Yale felt. Hatred had gnawed away at Yale's soul, and although Yale wanted to relax and be dissolute once more, he wasn't able to. Under Linley's control, the metallic life form flew at high speed. In 3 years' time, it reached the borders of North Bone Prefecture. After this prefecture, we will be very close to the sacred undead mountain. George chortled. BB mumbled, North Bone Prefecture is the northernmost prefecture of the netherworld. We still haven't found Odin. It seems that boss is going to have to go to the Spectre Castle to issue a mission, humph. We'll just let Odin live a bit longer. Linley saw that Yale's face was rather ugly right now. The impact of Odin's actions on Yale truly are severe. Linley sighed to himself. Linley could completely understand. If, when Linley was a saint, a high god were to control him to kill his wife, kill his son, kill his brothers, kill his friends, then torture him to death. Most likely, Linley would also go insane with the need for revenge. He would rather die than not get revenge. Linley patted Yale on the shoulders. Don't worry. He won't be able to escape. Right. Yale squeezed out a smile. It's fine. I can wait. At least I have a chance for revenge now. The Netherworld. North Bone Prefecture. The grasslands outside the city of Hyde. There were many soldiers stationed here, and quite a few castles. The number one expert of North Bone Prefecture here was Sayant, a sovereign's emissary and the Lord Prefect of Northbone Prefecture. Sayent had quite a few experts under his command, one of whom was the 7-star spectre, Odin. A black-robed blur descended from the skies. "Milord." The soldiers immediately bowed. The black-robed man nodded calmly, then strode inside. Moments later, the black-robed figure saw Sayent. "Lord Prefect, the matter is dealt with," the black-robed figure said respectfully to Sayent. Sayent was dressed in a white robe, and was reclining against a chair, holding a book and leisurely flipping through it. Hearing the report from the black-robed figure, he smiled and nodded. Very well. Right, Odin. Have you heard any news regarding the planar wars while traveling outside? Nearly a century should have passed since this planar war. Sayent himself didn't participate in the planar wars. Given how far away Northbone Prefecture was, news came here at a much slower rate. Your subordinate ran into a few people, most of whom were fairly average in strength. I didn't run into a single Lord Prefect or Tartaru's Lord-level expert. I didn't hear any news regarding the planar wars, or, perhaps the news simply takes too long to arrive here. Still, on this trip, your subordinate did find out something else. What news have you? Sayent raised his head, glancing at Odin curiously. The black-robed Odin revealed a hint of a smile. Lord Prefect. The news has been made public from the Abyssal Mountain that a 4th person has acquired the Abyssal Fruit. According to my investigations, the name of the person is Bailey. Bailey? It seems Linley failed. Sayent laughed as well. The Abyssal Mountain is incredibly dangerous. Odin laughed smugly. Bailey succeeded, so I imagine that Linley must have died within the Abyssal Mountain. Even if he didn't die, given it has been 1,000 years, he has probably left the netherworld by now. If Linley knew what was good for him and so retreated, he might still be alive. But from what I saw, he definitely wouldn't easily give up his goal of meeting the sovereign. 9 out of 10, he died there on the Abyssal Mountain. Sayent laughed calmly. Enough. Odin, you should now be completely at ease. Indeed, Linley was Odin's nightmare. I feel much more relieved. I won't disturb you any further, Lord Prefect. Odin bowed slightly, then departed. In the air above Northbone Prefecture. Just like before, Linley was using his divine sense to search while chatting casually. We are about to reach the place where the Lord Prefect of Northbone Prefecture, Sayent, lives. Sayent was the one who told me to go to the Abyssal Mountain. To be honest, I need to go thank him for his role in my current accomplishments. Linley's face suddenly changed. What is it, boss? The nearby BB said, puzzled. Third bro, did you find Odin? Yale immediately asked. Whenever he saw any changes on Linley's face while Linley was searching, Yale would suspect that it was Odin. But prior to this, every single time Yale had made this guess, he was wrong. Linley looked towards Yale. He couldn't help but laugh loudly. Odin. It's Odin. Haha, Odin has finally revealed himself, and he's right there with Sayent. A hint of a cold light flashed through Linley's eyes. It seems that Sayent and his wife intentionally deceived me back then. Linley was no fool. Upon discovering Odin, he realized that Sayent had lied and was able to guess a few other things. Odin is right at Sayent's place. BB understood as well, and he said furiously, Boss, I told you that Sayent and his wife seemed a bit strange when they spoke with us. They told you go to the Abyssal Mountain, most likely with the intention of letting you die there. You still need to thank them. George laughed. Third bro. Because of them, you had this extraordinary run of luck, allowing you to break through to become a paragon. If Odin and them were to know, they would regret it endlessly. Linley hadn't yet publicized the fact that he was a soul mutate, as when too many people knew a secret, it would easily slip out. He only said that he was a paragon. Right. I really do need to thank them. Linley swept his gaze towards the northeast, then growled, let's go. Let's go pay a visit to Saint and Odin. Odin. Yale ground his teeth, his eyes sharp. Instantly, Linley controlled his metallic life form to fly forward at top speed. The 7-star specters under the control of the Lord Prefect of Northbone Prefecture all had their own castles. Odin was currently on the balcony of his castle, leisurely enjoying the sunlight and staring at the vast grasslands. HRM. Odin raised an eyebrow. There was a metallic life form flying over at high speed. The metallic life form flew so quickly that Odin was astonished. Such speed. This metallic life form must be a top tier one. The person who is controlling it must be a supreme expert as well. Odin. The growling voice instantly echoed throughout the region in an area of 10,000 kilometers. Many soldiers of Northbone Prefecture, as well as Saint himself, were startled by it. Who is it? Odin's face changed slightly. Within Odin's field of vision, the metallic life form disappeared, revealing a group of people, with Linley at the lead. Linley. Odin's face changed from terror. How is Linley still alive? Even if he is alive, why did he come back? Swoosh. The group of figures flew down from the skies. Who goes there? A furious shout rang out. Instantly, the soldiers all rose into the skies, and over 100 prefectural soldiers moved to block Linley's group. Beat it? Linley growled. An invisible ripple spread out, and instantly this group of soldiers were impacted by it and sent flying back. Fortunately, Linley showed mercy, as otherwise, all of these soldiers would have died instantly. Linley's group acted as though they were moving into an unpopulated region as they flew downwards, ignoring everyone else. All the soldiers who wanted to block them were sent flying back. What is this ability? Odin was stunned. It was easy to kill high gods, but the technique Linley had used was truly astonishing. Linley's group hovered there in midair, staring coldly at Odin. Odin. Do you recognize me? A furious, hateful, teeth-grinding voice rang out. Yale stared death at Odin. Odin turned to look, and upon seeing Yale, laughed coldly. Ha, and here I was, wondering who it was. So it is the chairman of the Dawson conglomerate. I didn't imagine that after becoming an undead, you would then become a deity. This really was outside my expectations. For you to be able to meet again with your brother after becoming a deity, how rare. Odin didn't seem to be afraid at all. Linley. A gentle voice rang out. Linley turned to look. From afar, 5 figures were flying over at high speed, with the leader being the Lord Prefect of Northbone Prefecture, Saint, along with his wife, Anita. By their sides were 3 other subordinates, who were most likely experts at the 7-star spectre level. Saint. Linley greeted him. Linley, you should have let me know that you were coming. I would have gone to welcome you. Saint said with a laugh. As he spoke, Saint's group of 5 flew next to Odin. While Linley didn't move to block him at all. The 2 sides stared at each other there in midair, with many prefectural soldiers watching. Most likely, once Saint gave the order, these prefectural soldiers would all charge en masse. Let you know in advance. Linley let out a calm laugh. Saint, I imagine that if I let you know, you would have had Odin hide. Haha, I really didn't expect that you, Saint, a noble Lord Prefect, would play this sort of trick on me. This is a bit too laughable. Saint's face sank. Linley's words made him feel very uncomfortable. Humph. He's just an elder of the Azure Dragon clan. Saint snickered mentally. Prior to this, I was worried that Linley was a paragon, but since he didn't acquire the abyssal fruit at the abyssal mountain, he's definitely not a paragon. Saint had only been worried about Linley's level of strength due to the intelligence reports he had received from the 8 great clans. but the results of Linley's trip to the Abyssal Mountain had put Saint at ease. Indeed, if Linley had already been a paragon, acquiring the abyssal fruit would have been very easy. Saint, stand aside. This has nothing to do with you. Linley said calmly. My target is just a single person. Him. Odin. Linley stared at Odin. Odin looked at Saint. Saint chuckled as he looked at Linley. Linley, I've been fairly courteous to you. Why must you act so brazenly? Odin is my subordinate. If I were to allow you to kill him just because you asked me to, then how would I, Saint, be able to hold onto my position as Lord Prefect? Since he is my subordinate, I definitely won't permit you to take him away. Linley, if you are wise, you will leave immediately. Otherwise, if we shed all pretense of cordiality, it won't be good. Saint was completely confident in himself. Saint. Bibi began to curse furiously. Last time, you intentionally lied to us to have us go to the Abyssal Mountain. We haven't even settled accounts with you about that, we are already giving you face. You are simply a Lord Prefect, who do you think you are, to put on airs in front of me and my boss? Are you qualified to act like this? After having experienced the planar wars, Bibi held Saint in no regard at all. Bibi was completely confident in being able to kill Saint. Impudent. Saint's face turned ugly, and he let out a growl. Suddenly, a long black spear appeared in Saint's hands, and a terrifying aura spread forth from the spear. The nearby Odin, seeing this, laughed. Swoosh. Saint charged straight towards Bibi. Clearly, Bibi's words had infuriated him. The strange thing was, Linley's body didn't move, but a blurred figure had appeared in front of Saint. Bang! A kick landed directly across Saint's chest. Saint was like a sandbag, and was knocked back downwards. Boom! He smashed into the corner of the castle, and then landed on the ground. At this moment, Linley's body slowly disappeared, while that blurred figure reformed into Linley's true body. Odin, the other 7 star fiends, Lady Anita, and the watching prefectural soldiers were all stunned. Ugh! Saint spat out a mouthful of blood. He lay there on the ground, staring at Linley in terror. What sort of speed was this? Linley stood there in midair, staring down at the prone Saint. Calmly, he said, "Be a good boy and stand over there. If you continue to act so arrogantly, I will show no more mercy." After speaking, Linley turned to stare at Odin. His gaze cold. Odin's face turned ashen, and his body began to tremble. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 3, Power. Odin lowered his head, staring in terror at Saint, who lay stricken on the ground. He sent mentally, "Lord Prefect, Lord Prefect." Odin was now truly frantic. Having seen Linley's displayed power, Odin now knew, there was no way he could resist at all. In his desperation, all he could do was place his hopes on Lord Prefect Saint. "Shut your mouth." Saint snarled angrily through divine sense. Saint's eyes were red, and his heart was filled with rage. He had been kicked to the ground with so many soldiers watching. This was an insult. For someone of Saint's status to suffer this sort of humiliation was something that had to be avenged. But he didn't have the ability to do so at all. The surrounding soldiers all stared at Linley, stunned, then at Saint, who lay there on the ground, covered in blood. To attempt to gain revenge will only result in one thing: death. I have to endure it? Endure it? Saint felt all the more humiliated with so many people staring at him. If I die, then everything is finished. Linley probably really is a paragon. Even if others hear of this story, it's not embarrassing for me to have lost by his hand. This was how Saint consoled himself. He, Saint, worried about his face. Odin, however, was worried about his puny little life. If I don't run now, I'll have no hope. With a whoosh, Odin dove underground, wanting to hide himself underground and flee. Humph. Linley smiled calmly, and then his body transformed into a blur as he moved to stand below Odin. Whap! Linley delivered a slap directly to Odin's face, knocking him flying into the air. Odin slammed into the side of the castle wall like a sandbag. With a low, thudding sound, the castle wall split apart. How terrifyingly fast! Odin had yet to recover from his terror, but Linley was already once more in front of him. Odin looked at Linley, his face filled with terror. Linley just reached out calmly while sending out 108 surges of earth and yellow energy which formed into a cocoon, completely binding Odin within it. The terrifying compressive power made it so that Odin wasn't able to move at all. Even Hemmers, an expert whose material attack power was comparable to Paragon's, was dramatically impacted by this technique of Linley's. How could a mere 7-star Spectre possibly have the power to resist against the oppressive power of Linley's will? He was paralyzed. Yale, you choose how he dies. Linley turned to look at Yale, who flew over, his eyes filled with savagery. Ah! Odin howled, frantically trying to break free from the oppressive power binding him. It must be understood that even when Linley had just become a high god, his gravitational space was already capable of making it hard for ordinary 7-star fiends to resist. Now that it was infused with the power of his will, it was increased more than 100-fold in strength. Odin was like a trapped beast in a cage, although he howled with savagery, he wasn't able to extricate himself at all. You want to kill me? Haha, kid, you think you are worthy of killing me? Odin's eyes were scarlet red as he stared at Yale, contempt in his gaze. Linley, if you are so tough, kill me yourself. Odin howled. By now, Odin realized that there was no hope. Sayant, Anita, their subordinates. And the soldiers all quietly watched from far away as Odin struggled like a trapped beast. Earlier, they wanted to intervene, wanted to attack and drive Linley back, but after Linley made his move, they no longer had any thoughts of fighting back. Kill you myself. Linley laughed calmly. In your dreams. Humph! Odin suddenly laughed coldly, and a translucent ripple shot out from Odin's eyes, shooting towards Yale. Crunch. The earthen yellow cocoon which surrounded Odin spat out a translucent sword-shaped ripple which destroyed the soul attack. Linley gave Odin a disdainful, calm look. Odin, now that you are trapped within my gravitational prison, you aren't able to fight back at all. Don't try to be tricky. Make your move. Linley looked at Yale. Yale nodded slightly, a deep azure spear appearing in his hands. My brothers. My wife. My children. My parents. Yale's body was trembling, and his lips were white as he stared at Odin. And then, Yale suddenly bent backwards like a great bow being pulled, then savagely exploded forth, throwing the spear in his hand forward with endless power and sending it piercing towards Odin. Swoosh! Clank! The deep azure spear pierced towards Odin, but it wasn't even able to break through his skin. Yale was stunned. Ha, ha ha, Odin raised his head, laughing loudly, laughing wildly. Linley, oh, Linley. You want your friend to kill me? Ha ha. He's a demigod. I'm a 7-star Spectre, a high god. My energy defense alone is comparable that of a high god artifact. His bit of attack power isn't even capable of breaking through my skin. Ha ha, kill me? In his dreams. Yale's face turned pale. Yale's body trembled. I want to get revenge, but Linley had already captured Odin and gave him to Yale for Yale to kill, but Yale's attack power was simply too low. Odin was, after all, a 7-star Spectre. Even if he didn't use his fused profound mysteries in activating his divine power, his material defense was still close to a high god artifact in strength. In terms of soul defense, Odin, who trained in the Edicts of Death, was even mightier. Yale wasn't able to harm him at all. Odin glared savagely at Yale, as though he wanted to eat him alive. Punk, you want to kill me? In your dreams. The power you possess isn't enough to even harm a single hair on my body. Odin. Linley gave him a calm glance. Linley, what are you being so arrogant about? Knowing that he was about to die, Odin actually became fearless, and he stared at Linley, laughing loudly. Didn't you want your brother to kill me? Unfortunately, he's too weak. Even though you captured me and gave me to him for him to kill, he still isn't able to do it. It is fated that he will never be able to personally take revenge. Haha, I still remember the look on the faces of Yale's family members when they all died. How delightful. Bastard. Yale bellowed. You aren't able to kill me. There's no way you'll be able to personally take revenge. Odin laughed delighted. A layer of frost appeared on Linley's face. Absorb this into your body, then activate it. With a flip of his hand, Linley produced a drop of black liquid, which floated towards Yale. Huh. Odin's face changed. Aren't you very powerful? You are only an ordinary 7-star spectre, and one who trains in the edicts of death. I want to see if your body is tough enough to withstand a strike which uses sovereign power. Linley laughed calmly. Yale's eyes lit up. Third bro, thank you. Yale immediately absorbed the drop of sovereign's might into his body, and then, with a bang sound, black light exploded forth from Yale's body as a terrifying aura spread out from it. Yale held that deep azure spear, which swirled with black light. Yale let out a deep growl. Die. Yale struck out as fast as lightning, stabbing wildly with that deep azure spear towards Odin. No. Odin only had enough time for one final, miserable scream. Yale didn't stab directly into Odin's head, he wildly, randomly stabbed, leaving more than 10 bloody holes throughout Odin's body before finally piercing through his head. Huff, huff, Yale panted wildly as he launched several more stabbing blows, then began to tremble. Odin just lay there limply, not responding all. His divine artifacts fell out of his body, but because of the repulsive force, they remained next to him. Dead. Odin's dead. I personally killed him. Yale raised his head, laughing wildly, but his tears flowed downwards. Yale seemed to be gripped by madness. But seeing this, Linley only let out a sigh of relief. Yale was releasing the hatred that had been pent up deep within his heart. Afterwards, he would be much better. A long while later, Yale finally regained his former calm. He turned his head to look towards Linley. A grateful look, that was it. Linley laughed, then walked over and patted him on the shoulders. Let's go. They were brothers who had played together since they were youths. Some words simply didn't need to be said. George and the others felt happy for Yale as well. And then, Linley's group of experts boarded their metallic life form and left. As for Sayant, the Lord Prefect of North Bone Prefecture, he and his men all looked at each other, letting out mental sighs of relief. Lord Prefect, this Linley is too powerful. A nearby azure-robed man said in a low voice. Odin was a 7-star spectre, but he was trapped by Linley to the point of not being able to fight back. What sort of technique is this? Also, Linley's speed is utterly inconceivable. Given how fast they were, when ordinary commanders encountered paragons, they weren't able to fight back at all. Given how fast he was, and how he could use energy to trap a 7-star spectre, while only using ordinary divine earth power, Sayant's face was solemn. This Linley most likely truly is a paragon. The people by his side were all stunned. Paragon. Let's go. All of you, go back. Sayant's face was sinister, and his voice was dark. Whoosh. A wild wind howled, and the wind slashed across the land like knives. Iron Knife Gorge. Within the castle. Within the wide, empty area, there were two giant teleportation arrays. Suddenly, one of them flashed with countless sparkles of light, and the surrounding blood-rich soldiers couldn't help but to turn their heads to look. The light dissipated, and a group of people merged. One of the blood-rich soldiers recognized them, and his eyes lit up. He hurriedly bowed. "Greetings again, milord. Last time, when Linley had used this teleportation array to depart, this soldier had clearly seen Linley and knew that Linley had the blood-rich sovereign's medallion." Linley nodded slightly. "We will wait here momentarily. We will leave in a bit. Please feel free, milord." The blood-rich soldier smiled. Linley's group waited there in the air above the vast, empty area. BB mumbled, "Boss. It should be fairly fast for you to arrive from the Yulon continent. Why haven't you arrived yet? It's been 1,000 years since I've seen Nini and Nana." BB missed his wife and daughter. "We are almost here," Linley said with a laugh. "It takes a bit of time for us to all fly from the Yulon continent to the Arctic ice cap." "Linley, little Warden is coming as well, right?" Hogg was rather nervous and excited. "Yes, father." Linley laughed and nodded. His father hadn't seen Warden in a very long time. Warden had been sent off to the O'Brien Empire very early on, and when his father had died, the last mental impression he had of Warden was most likely the toddler Warden. Linley said with a laugh, "Father, I imagine once you see Warden, you won't be able to recognize him right away." "I will definitely be able to recognize him." Hogg was completely certain. "Oh, we just entered the teleportation array. We are coming," Linley said. His divine fire clone was coming alongside this large group of people. Immediately, everyone turned to look at the teleportation array, only to see it once more flash with countless specks of light. Moments later, the light finally, completely vanished. A large group of people was gathered there, with the leader being Linley's divine fire clone and Delia. The divine fire clone flew towards Linley, merging into him. Upon merging in, the 5 souls intermixed. Instantly, Linley's 4 mutated souls began to send surges of spiritual energy towards the divine fire clone's soul, which slowly began to change. After all, the 5 souls were one to begin with. "Father." Wade, Taylor, and Sasha all ran towards Linley. "Father." Warden stood there, staring at Hogg, stunned. Hogg stared at this burly, muscular youth in front of him. Warden had a hint of Hogg in his face, and was fairly similar in appearance to Linley as well. But more importantly, when Hogg looked into Warden's eyes, it was as though he was looking back into the big eyes of toddler Warden. "Warden," Hogg said softly. "It's me, father." Warden ran forward, tightly embracing Hogg. "Wonderful. Wonderful." Hogg couldn't keep his eyes from turning red. After a long while, the two, father and son, separated. "Father, look. This is your grandson, Wade. This is Taylor. This is your granddaughter, Sasha." Linley walked forward, laughing as he made the introductions. Warden hurriedly made some introductions of his own. "Father, this is your grandson, Sina, and him. Arnold, quick, come over here. This is your great-grandfather. Father, this chubby-faced fellow is Arnold's son." Many people had come on this trip. Everyone who had reached the saint rank had come, leaving behind only a few people. "Wonderful. Wonderful." Hogg nodded repeatedly. All he could do was repeatedly smile. "All right, father, let's head to the Skirite Mountains first." Linley laughed. This giant group of people immediately boarded the metallic lifeform and flew out from Iron Knife Gorge. Those blood-rich soldiers all stared there, stupefied. They glanced at each other. Important people really are different. In one breath, he brought an entire family of more than 100 people to the Infernal Realm. Grandfathers, grandchildren, there really were quite a few people. Right, Captain. Why did you address that brown-haired man as milord? Who is he? You don't know this, but last time, when I was on duty, that brown-haired man came bearing the medallion of the sovereign, using it to activate the teleportation portal for free. Even most emissaries don't possess that medallion. Only a person with a certain status will be able to acquire a treasure like that. The blood-rich soldiers, bored, chattered amongst themselves. As for Linley's family, they all made haste towards the Skirite Mountains. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 4, The Clan's Changes. The Blood-Ridge Continent. Indigo Prefecture. The Skirite Mountains. The patriarch of the Azure Dragon clan, Gislason, was seated in his estate's living room. Gislason was currently accompanying a skinny bald elder. They were chatting and laughing. Gislason, why be modest? Haha, back when we were in the chaotic sea, when you, me, and those several other fellows took on that fiend mission to go kill that Valentine W. Lunding. Me and the others, we were just there to serve as props. It was you, Gislason, who released your might and unleashed that innate divine ability of your Azure Dragon clan, as well as that supremely powerful material attack to slay Valentine in one blow. That memory has always stayed with me. The bald elder said with a laugh. Haha, Bagleaf by Ge Lefu, that was so many years ago. Gislason said modestly, but his face was still covered with a smile. Yes, it was long ago. Still, you were so incredible all those years ago. I imagine that by now, Gislason, your strength is so great that I am no match for it. The bald elder's words clearly contained flattery within them. However, flattery depended on the speaker. If an ordinary high god were to say such things, Gislason would be annoyed just listening to it. But the current speaker was a supreme expert whose power was no less than Gislason's, and one of Gislason's older friends. Flattery from a person like this naturally made Gislason feel quite happy. Haha, don't say that. Gislason grinned widely. The bald elder, Bagleaf, said with a sigh, this time, I've come to visit you, old friend, partially because I want to visit that paragon your Azure Dragon clan produced. It seems my luck is quite poor. Gislason, hearing this, immediately laughed. Bagleaf, the planar wars concluded just a century ago. Linley probably hasn't returned from the netherworld yet. Don't worry. After Linley returns, when you come visit, I will definitely introduce you to Linley. Linley, although he is a true genius of our Azure Dragon clan, he is quite a decent fellow and likes to make friends. As he spoke, Gislason let out a sigh of approval. The bald elder stood up, then laughed. Fine, then I'll wait for next time. I've disturbed you for so long, I should return as well. In the future, when I have time, I'll definitely seek you out and we can reminisce together. You are always welcome. Gislason stood up as well, then escorted the bald elder away. No need to escort me away. The bald elder smiled and nodded. Gislason stood there at the door to the hall, watching as the bald elder flew away. Moments later, someone entered from outside. It was Elder Garvey. Patriarch, Commander Bagleaf left. Garvey laughed as he walked in. Right. Gislason smiled back. Garvey couldn't help but laugh. Patriarch, this seems to be the 9th supreme expert who has come to visit in the past few decades. Soon after the planar wars concluded, commander-level experts began to come to the Four Divine Beasts clan to pay their respects. The person these experts truly wished to see was Linley. Even if they weren't able to meet Linley, however, they still worked to improve their relationships with the 4 clan leaders of the Four Divine Beasts clan. The current Four Divine Beasts clan now had a different status in the eyes of these commanders. Gislason snickered. 9 of them. These commanders all saw that our Four Divine Beasts clan produced a paragon, and so all of them came to express their friendliness towards us. But when our four divine beasts clan was in such dire straits and forced to flee and hide by the 8 great clans, aside from Mr. Beirut, none of them came to help us. That bag leave, just now. Gislason snorted. In the past, we had a good relationship, when our ancestor was alive. He would often come to visit. But after our clan fell, and when our four divine beasts clan was forced by those 8 great clans to the point of annihilation, I didn't see Bagleaf appear. But now, he wants to talk about our past friendship. There were few who would come to send coal in the snow, but many who would add flowers to a wreath. Now that the four divine beasts clan had a paragon, its status naturally was different. Paragons represented true supremacy amongst deities. For example, the 8 great clans that had been attacking the four divine beasts clan, although they were powerful, a high god paragon was more than enough to slaughter all of the experts within their clan. This is understandable. Garvey laughed. Only, I still find it unbelievable that Linley has become a paragon. Hearing this, Gislason's eyes lit up as well, and he laughed loudly. You aren't the only one. I find it inconceivable as well. Almost no one in our four divine beasts clan dares to believe this news. When Linley left the clan, he was nothing more than a fairly powerful 7-star fiend, close to commander level. But who would have imagined that 1,000 years later, he would become a paragon? If it hadn't been for the fact that so many people came and said the same thing, and that they were all supreme experts who couldn't possibly be lying, even I probably wouldn't believe it. A paragon. Garvey let out a sigh of amazement. Ever since the news that Linley was a paragon had spread, the various commander-level experts began to discuss this amongst themselves, and so quite a few had come to pay their respects to the four divine beasts clan. This naturally caused the members of the four divine beasts clan to feel as though the status of their clan was rising. They had given birth to a paragon. The status of the four divine beasts clan was now far greater than before. Aside from sovereigns, nobody would dare to offend the four divine beasts clan. As for sovereigns, how could they possibly lower themselves to go deal against a clan? Garvey. Gislason suddenly said. Patriarch. Garvey looked towards him, puzzled. Gislason said hurriedly, have the communications teams been assigned to the borders of the mountains? They have all been assigned. Garvey laughed. Patriarch, don't worry. If Linley returns from the netherworld, as long as he reaches the borders of these mountains, the news will quickly be communicated to you and the other 3 clan leaders. All of the arrangements for Linley's return have been made as well, including the construction of his mansion. Very good. Gislason laughed and nodded. Nothing can go amiss. Linley came from the Yulon Plain. And so he never had an extremely strong sense of belonging here in the clan. After those things happened with Foran and his son, although Linley still treats the clan quite well because of Barrack's group, we still need to make up for the past. I understand. Garvey nodded. As far as Gislason and the Grand Elder were concerned, the current paragon level Linley was even more important to them than Beirut. Beirut was powerful, but he was still an outsider. If the clan were to face a crisis, Beirut might not necessarily intervene. But Linley was one of their own. Although in the past, there were some misunderstandings, in the end, he was still a member of the Azure Dragon clan. What needed to be done now, was to remove those misunderstandings in Linley's heart and let Linley feel a true sense of belonging, here within the Four Divine Beasts clan. Indigo Prefecture. An enormous dragon-shaped metallic life-form was flying at high speed in the air above the mountains and forests. Within the metallic life-form was a rowdy scene of joy. Grandpa. Great-grandpa. A group of youth surrounded Hogg, constantly discussing various matters. Hogg looked at his grandchildren, his face wreathed in smiles. Big bro, look at how happily father has been laughing. Wharton and Linley were at the edges of the central room of this metallic life form. The two brothers were chatting amongst each other. Linley glanced at his father, who was smiling calmly while accompanying his descendants, then nodded. In the past, when we were young, our barrack clan had already sunk to a very low point. In father's entire life, aside from mother and the two of us, the only thing he cared about was the clan. Father cared deeply about the ability of the clan to thrive. Now that more generations have appeared in the clan, of course father is happy. Right at this moment, 3 people walked over. Third bro. Yale, George, and Reynolds walked over. Reynolds had hurried over from the Yulon continent as well. Boss Yale, second bro, fourth bro, come, sit over here. Linley laughed as he pointed. Yale and the other 2 all sat down. Reynolds chortled, glancing outside the window and sighing in praise. The Infernal Realm, one of the higher realms. This is my first time here. Indeed, the density of the elemental aura here is very great. Only, it is filled with constant slaughter. From within the metallic life form, they were able to see the constant battles going on below. That's what the Infernal Realm is like. Linley said with a calm laugh. It is the same in the undead realm. Experts live, experts die. Fourth bro, I'm impressive, aren't I? I survived in the undead realm for so many years. Yale raised a smug eyebrow. Seeing the look on Yale's face, Reynolds, George, and Linley all felt very happy. This was the real Yale. After killing Odin, Yale no longer felt as heartsick as he previously had. In the entire central room, there were more than 100 people scattered about, idly chatting. Seeing this scene, Linley couldn't help but smile slightly. Linley enjoyed this happy, content feeling. This world, in many cases, it is power which speaks loudest. Linley looked at the warm scene, and he spoke softly to himself. I worked hard to train. Only because my power reached a certain level is my father, my friends, and family able to reunite once more. I'm able to bring the entire clan over from the material plane. By now, Linley finally had the feeling that the bitter efforts he had put into his training over these years had been rewarded. After flying for a period of time, we are about to arrive at the 4 Divine Beasts clan. BB was within the main room inside the metallic life form, and he spoke out in a clear, laughing voice. Everyone, make your preparations. Right, uncle. BB looked at Hogg. The ancestors of your Barrack clan are there, uncle. Barrack, Ryan, the others. The ancestors of the Barrack clan. Hogg stood up, rather excited. He walked to the sides of the windows, staring through the translucent metal windows to the outside. He could already vaguely make out the Skirite Mountains. The ancestors of the clan. Taylor, Sasha, and the other members of the clan all began to chatter about this. Ever since they were young, they were always, repeatedly reminded that they were members of the Barrack clan. They were filled with great veneration towards the legendary figures of the clan, but didn't actually feel much towards the 4 Divine Beasts clan. It's right up ahead. Linley said with a calm laugh. The metallic life form instantly vanished, while Linley and more than 100 people hovered there in midair, flying towards the Azure Dragon clan's location within the Skirite Mountains. What a long carving! I can't even see the end of it. The sturdy Arnold sighed in praise. Linley laughed. That's not a carving. That's Dragon Avenue. It passes through almost a fourth of the Skirite Mountains and is more than 10,000 kilometers long. It is the primary avenue which the soldiers of the clan guard. Linley's group of more than 100 flew over. The soldiers below naturally saw it, and the communications personnel, prepared long ago for this eventuality, were overjoyed. Elder Linley is returning. These communications personnel had divine clones stationed elsewhere, and many of them instantly relied on their divine clones to provide this news to various locations within the 4 Divine Beasts clan. Patriarch, Elder Linley has returned. Oh, Linley returned. Gislason instantly flew out. Not just Gislason, the other 3 clan leaders, along with many other elders, who had received this news hurried over as well. Linley and his group of more than 100 flew over, and as they did, the warriors of the clan all saluted. Elder Linley. The warriors were very respectful. Linley smiled and nodded, then led his group towards the Dragon Avenue of the Skirite Mountains. At the same time, he introduced the place to Warden and the others. The rules of the clan are fairly strict. You have just arrived. In a bit, I'll acquire identity badges for you all. Linley suddenly frowned, staring into the distant. What's going on? BB glanced at him. Delia, Nissa, Yale, and the others all looked into the distance. From afar, a large, impressive group of people was flying, with the leader being Gislason, the Black Tortoise Patriarch, and the other two. Behind them was the Grand Elder and other figures. Why are all the high-level, important members of the clan coming? Linley was startled. Even the Vermilion Bird Matriarch is coming. If they flew over from their residences, it should take quite a while. How were they so fast? The reaction time of the clan was simply too fast. As soon as he had arrived, and just as he had reached Dragon Avenue, this large group had arrived as well. Even when Beirut came, only the clan leaders and the Grand Elder would go welcome him. Ha, Linley. Gislason laughed loudly as he flew over. Patriarch. Although Linley was somewhat confused, he still went to greet him. Linley swept the group with his gaze. The Black Tortoise Patriarch, Vermilion Bird Matriarch, and others, including even the Grand Elder who held a grudge for him, their faces were all smiles. They seemed so warm and friendly. Although we are in Indigo Prefecture, we've heard long ago of your exploits in the planar battlefield. Haha, our Four Divine Beasts clan has produced a paragon. This is worth us organizing a banquet, to celebrate this joyous event. Gislason seemed quite pleased and excited. The banquet is already prepared. We've been waiting for you. Haha, BB, and oh, these must be Linley's friends. Come, all of you. Haha. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 5, Refusal. Gislason's words were very correct. Indeed, the entire clan rejoiced. Not just the high-level members of the clan, even many of the ordinary clan members located throughout the Skirite Mountains gathered together in various places, drinking, chatting, and laughing gaily. For the clan to have produced such an expert was something which made even the ordinary clansmen feel proud. When the four ancestors had been alive, the clan had been in such a flourishing, vigorous state. After they died, the clan had decayed, to the point of being loudly insulted by the 8 great clans at the borders of the Skirite Mountains. This was a humiliation. This caused the members of the clan, who had experienced those glory days, to feel very lost in their hearts. Linley's sudden rise to prominence caused these clansmen to once more feel proud and arrogant. It was a very wild celebration. Even the patrolling soldiers drank wine and celebrated. With a high god paragon in the clan, the patrolling soldiers weren't concerned, no one would dare to come and make trouble for the Four Divine Beasts clan. Late night. The violet moon hung high in the skies. The Skirite Mountains. Within a mountain controlled by the Azure Dragon clan. There was a large estate which stretched over an enormous amount of land built here. In terms of size, it was even larger than the residence of the patriarchs. It seemed quite simple and plain from the distance, but if one took a close look, one would see that even the walls were covered with intricate, minute carvings. Given Linley's vision, he could instantly tell that these carvings were only accomplishable by someone who was at least at the Grand Master level in sculpting. And right now, in front of this mansion stood only 2 figures, Linley and Gislason. Linley couldn't help but look towards the nearby Gislason. He mused to himself, the Patriarch truly has prepared quite a few things for me. Patriarch, I'm going to live here. Linley asked. Linley. Gislason laughed. You are now the #1 expert of our 4 Divine Beasts clan. When people in the outside world discuss the 4 Divine Beasts clan, the first person they will think about is you. Your residence has to match your stature. In addition, this place is fairly large, and you have many family and friends. It is enough. Linley couldn't help but nod. The size of this estate was similar to the Dragon Blood Castle of the Yulon continent. Even 1,000 people could fit inside, much less 100. Then I will accept it? Linley was quite straightforward. Gislason laughed and nodded. Tomorrow, you can move your family and friends over here. Warden and the others were currently staying within the large gorge already. Hogg went to go visit his ancestors in the Barrack clan. To Hogg and Warden, seeing the ancestors of the clan was what mattered the most. No rush. Linley said. My family members will want to spend some time with the Yulon branch and their ancestors. Fair enough. Gislason laughed and nodded. Linley, look. As he spoke, Gislason produced a little jade bottle in his hands. This jade bottle had a small opening. It was generally used for keeping items like already refined golden soul pearls or other small pills. This is. Linley frowned. Sovereign's Might. Right. Earth-type Sovereign's Might. Gislason laughed. Linley, I know that you primarily train in the laws of the earth. Thus, it is better for you to use Earth-type Sovereign's Might. That is why we prepared this for you. You are the #1 expert of our clan, naturally, you have to use the most suitable type of Sovereign's Might. Although this little jade bottle of Sovereign's Might was far from being comparable to the flask Rice Gem had given Linley, it still had to have at least 1,000 drops in it. Patriarch. Linley didn't accept, instead shaking his head. This jade bottle has far too much Sovereign's Might. Ever since the 4 ancestors of our clan perished, our 4 Divine Beasts clan lost our source for more Sovereign's Might. Each drop we use is a drop lost forever. It is best if you keep them and let the other elders of the clan use them. Linley knew that given his own power, even if he used destruction-type Sovereign's Might, he had nothing to fear from paragons, and in dragon form even held a slight advantage. Haha. Gislason laughed. Linley, you are worrying too much. In the past, our clan had to be stingy in using Sovereign's Might, partially because we no longer had a source for it, but partially because we were being put under great pressure by the 8 great clans. We used up Sovereign's Might too quickly, each battle represented the loss of a drop of Sovereign's Might, and generally, we would engage in tens of battles before being able to kill an enemy elder. Because they were being used up too quickly, the clan didn't dare to hand them out freely. After all, at that time, we had no idea what the future would hold for the clan, and so we had to be a bit more thrifty. But now, Linley, you are a paragon. Who would dare come offend our 4 Divine Beasts clan? Gislason's laughter was very happy. Linley, hearing this, was somewhat persuaded by Gislason. Indeed, given his level of power, there would be few people who would be so blind as to come irritate his clan. There would no longer be that many situations where the clan would use up much Sovereign's Might. Take it, Linley. Gislason urged. Linley hesitated slightly. Let's do this, then. With a flip of his hand, Linley instantly controlled his divine earth power to draw in earth elemental essence from the surrounding area, which formed into the shape of a little black flask in Linley's hands. Linley pointed with one finger, and immediately, a stream of black water appeared out of nowhere in Linley's palms, flowing towards the black flask. This black water was actually destruction-type Sovereign's Might. Linley truly had a very large amount of destruction-type Sovereign's Might. Moments later, the flask was filled with it. This flask was roughly 10% of the canteen in volume. What are you? Gislason stared. Patriarch, let's swap this flask of destruction-type Sovereign's Might of mine, for that flask of Earth-type Sovereign's Might of yours. It is indeed true that if I have Earth-type Sovereign's Might, I will be more effective. Laughing, Linley offered the little black flask. If the clan had a tremendous amount of sovereign's might, Linley would have accepted it. But the clan didn't actually have that much. Most likely, that little flask represented a large fraction of the clan's reserve of sovereign's might. Linley. Gislason said hurriedly. This isn't acceptable. You. Take it, or else I won't take yours. Linley shook his head. Gislason could only laugh helplessly, then nod. Fine. He accepted the flask of destruction-type sovereign's might, while Linley accepted the flask of earth-type sovereign's might. As Linley was concerned, he had a large amount of destruction-type sovereign's might, but given his power, there would be very few cases in which he would have to use it. To trade it for earth-type sovereign's might was beneficial for him. Time flowed onwards, and in the blink of an eye, more than 10 years had passed since Linley's return to the clan. Linley could sense that the attitude of his clansmen, including the clan leaders, had changed. Linley understood that after having become a paragon, he had already become the spiritual leader of the entire Four Divine Beasts clan. His position was now akin to what the War God had held in the O'Brien Empire or the High Priest had held in the Yulan Empire. The estate in which Linley resided had become a holy ground for the clan. Within the vast, grassy plains of the estate's courtyard, there was a large group of people gathered. Linley, Reynolds, Yale, and George were seated in a circle, drinking wine and chatting idly about various things. But of course, it was Linley's divine water clone that was chatting with them. The other clones, including his original body, were all training. It was still Linley's original body that trained the fastest, after all. Elder Linley. A gate guard ran over and bowed. Linley looked at him. Elder Linley, the Patriarch has sent word that a Lord Prefect from the Jade Float continent wishes to meet you, Elder. The guard bowed as he spoke. Linley laughed and nodded calmly, then swept out with his divine sense, instantly encompassing the entire Skirite Mountains within it. Naturally, this included Gislason and that Lord Prefect. Linley sent mentally. Patriarch, just tell this Lord Prefect that I am currently training and unable to meet with any guests. Unless something important happens, please help me cope with them. Gislason was startled. He actually hadn't detected Linley's divine sense at all. He couldn't help but sigh. Paragons really are incredible. The strength of their spiritual energy vastly surpasses mine. Gislason understood Linley's temperament as well. Linley couldn't be bothered to engage in meetings like this, which were solely for the purpose of people trying to befriend him. All right, I'll help you deal with them. Gislason replied. Then, in the future, unless there is an important matter, you won't meet with any figures like these. Right. Linley sent mentally. Aside from people I am familiar with, such as Rice Gem. If I'm not familiar with them and have no connection to them. Unless there is an important matter, I won't meet with any of them. Linley's decision was quite wise, because after the arrival of this Lord Prefect from the Jade Float continent, every few months or every few years, someone would come. Some wanted to befriend Linley, while others wanted to ask Linley to help them with something. Still others wanted to take Linley as their teacher. In short, many came to disturb him. Fortunately, the Four Divine Beasts clan stopped them, making it so that no one could see Linley. Actually, it was normal for many people to come see Linley. After all, paragons rarely publicized their residences. It was very hard for people to locate paragons. Within his estate. Uncle. Ina looked suspiciously at Linley. Just now, that person who wanted to come visit you thought up a method to deliver this letter. And indeed, the letter states quite clearly the nature of the injustice done to him, and he really is quite pitiable. Uncle, why can't you be so kind as to help him? Linley couldn't help but chuckle as he glanced sideways at Ina. Nana. Bibi stared at his daughter. Who knows how many grudges and how much hatred the Infernal Realm holds? You want your uncle to help one person, but what about the countless other grudges? In the Infernal Realm, people are being killed at every moment of every day. Do you think every person who died deserved to die? They died unjust deaths as well. Do you want your uncle to make the entire Infernal Realm his enemy, and go get revenge for every single person who died? Ina was stunned. Ina and Wade lived under the protection of Linley and Bibi, and so they had almost never suffered. They weren't like Linley, who had walked a fine line between life and death to his current level. They saw the affairs of the world so simply. If I were to help people who are neither family nor friends, then I would need 1,000,000,000,000 clones. Linley chuckled. Ina let out an adorable sniff, her nose wrinkled. Forget about the affairs of others, there are many personal matters that I haven't carried out very well. Linley shook his head and sighed. Ina looked at Linley, puzzled. Linley chuckled, not going into detail. Although these days had been peaceful and happy, Linley noticed how his father, Hogg, would occasionally stare blankly into space when he was by himself. Linley understood that his father was missing his mother. Linley had always been thinking to himself, that one day, he should go pay a visit to the Divine Light Plane and ask for the Chief Sovereign of Light to restore his mother's freedom. Time flowed on, and in the blink of an eye, 100 years passed. Quite a few people were gathered within Linley's estate. Third Bro suddenly shut himself inside a few days ago. All of his clones are in training. He said that he reached a critical moment, but a sudden flash of insight should be very fast. Why hasn't he come out yet? Reynolds couldn't help but glance at a distant corridor, while George just laughed calmly. Why the rush? You have eternal life now. Reynolds, hearing this, couldn't help but laugh. Indeed, to deities who were untouched by time, 10 years or 100 years was nothing. Third Bro is coming. Yale said. Reynolds and the others all turned to look. Even some of the chatting, laughing people located in the grassy area some distance away noticed that a figure had emerged from the corridor, a figure with long, unbound brown hair. It was Linley. Linley was in a fairly good mood today. I've trained for 100 years. I've finally fused these two types of profound mysteries. It was exceedingly hard to fuse profound mysteries of different laws. After becoming a soul mutate, his soul had increased in power enormously, and yet he still had to spend so many years before making a true breakthrough. And this is just the beginning. Next I will fuse 3 kinds, and the amount of time I will have to spend will increase exponentially. My goal is fusing 4. Linley was quite eager as well. If he was able to fuse 4 types of profound mysteries from different laws, how powerful would he become? Most likely, he would be able to kill even paragons. Boss. Bibi ran over. My father? Linley asked. Uncle's in his room. I haven't seen him today. Bibi said. Right. I'll go find my father. Linley glanced towards the others, then moved towards his father's residence. After completing his training, Linley's first thought was that it was time to go to the Divine Light Plane. Regardless of whether or not I will be successful, I still at least need to go see the Chief Sovereign of Light and try asking. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 6, Overgod Artifact. Father. Linley stepped into the room. Hogg, currently reading a book, lifted his head. Seeing Linley, he couldn't help but smile. Linley, I heard you were in closed-door training. What, did you make a breakthrough? Right. Linley nodded, then sat down to the side. Father, in 2 days, I plan to head to the Divine Light Plane to go visit the Chief Sovereign of Light. I want to see if there is any hope of finding Mother and letting her regain her freedom. Huh. Hogg's hands trembled. The book fell to the table as he stared at Linley, stunned. Linley, you are going to the Divine Light Realm? But, last time, didn't you tell me that in the Planar Wars, you killed members of the Augusta clan? Isn't the chief sovereign of light the ancestor of the Augusta clan? For you to go will be very dangerous. Hogg was frantic. Hogg knew about virtually all of Linley's experiences over the years. Father, don't worry. The chief sovereign of light has 182 children, and that's just in the second generation. The one I killed was a third-generation member. The Augusta clan has more than 1,000 individuals in the second and third generations. The chief sovereign of light won't care about it? Linley was absolutely certain about this. If the chief sovereign of light cared, Ricegem wouldn't have dared to have organized them to attack. But he is still a chief sovereign. It would be utter simplicity for him to kill you. Hogg was very worried. Precisely because he is a chief sovereign, he wouldn't lower himself to kill me. Linley said comfortingly. Don't worry, Father. The chief sovereign of light and I don't have a grudge against each other. If he wants to kill me, he has plenty of methods to do so. But he's done nothing. Didn't you say that there is no hope? Hogg asked. I said the chances were very low. Linley laughed bitterly. But if I don't at least try, I can't be sure. If I give it a try, I might be successful. Sovereigns wish for paragons to be their emissaries. Perhaps, given my status, there's a slight sliver of a chance that the chief sovereign of light would restore my mother to freedom. A slight sliver of a chance, Hogg nodded slightly. Hogg looked at Linley, then said solemnly, Linley. You are no longer a child. You have your own ideas and thoughts about what to do, but as your father, I must warn you that if this will be dangerous, you had best not go. I admittedly don't know much about sovereigns and paragons, and thus can't say much on that subject. I'll let you make your own decisions. But safety first. You and Wharton, the two of you are just as important as your mother to me. Right. Hearing this, Linley felt, as though he were a child again, listening to his father instruct him. Linley's decision was to go find Patriarch Gislason the next day. Within the hall. What? Gislason, who had just sat down, couldn't help but stand in shock. Linley, you say you are going to go to the Divine Light Plane to visit the Chief Sovereign. Right. Linley laughed calmly. I'm just coming to let you know that this trip of mine will take at least 10 years and perhaps up to 100. All I can do is to go beg the Chief Sovereign of Light. Gislason hesitated, then said, Linley, based on what I learned from Father in the past, the Chief Sovereign of Light isn't a very amiable person. The Chief Sovereign of Light is extremely arrogant, and extremely domineering. If you go beg him, the chance for success truly is very low. In addition, I'm worried that if you say a single word not to his liking, he will kill you. Arrogant and domineering. Linley frowned. Gislason nodded. Right. The countless planes of the universe have a total of 11 chief sovereigns. The strongest are, of course, the chief sovereigns of the 4 edicts. As for the other 7, the chief sovereign of light is the strongest. Linley understood. The chief sovereigns of the edicts were indeed mighty. But he hadn't expected, that of the chief sovereigns of the 7 elemental laws, the chief sovereign of light was the mightiest. Why is the chief sovereign of light more powerful than the other elemental chief sovereigns? Linley asked, puzzled. Gislason was the son of the Azure Dragon, after all. He knew many secrets. He laughed and said, this involves a certain treasure, an Overgod artifact. Overgod artifact. Linley's eyes instantly lit up. Just from the term alone, Linley understood what it represented. Divine artifacts. Sovereign artifacts. Overgod artifacts. Clearly, there were 3 levels of artifacts. Overgod artifacts are created by the overgods themselves. Because there are only 4 overgods, the overgods of fate, destruction, death, and life, there are also only 4 kinds of overgod artifacts. The four most powerful sovereigns are the chief sovereigns of destruction, death, fate, and life. They all have Overgod artifacts. This is why they are the most powerful chief sovereigns. Linley nodded slightly. No wonder those four chief sovereigns were powerful. So it was because they had Overgod artifacts. 11 chief sovereigns, 5 of them have Overgod artifacts. Aside from the 4 chief sovereigns I just mentioned, the last one is the chief sovereign of light. Although the chief sovereign of light has an Overgod artifact, it isn't a match for him, and so he's unable to use all of its power. Thus, he is weaker than the 4 chief sovereigns of the edicts, but more powerful than the other 6 chief sovereigns of the laws. Linley sighed to himself. The power of Overgod artifacts must truly be tremendous. There were only 4 Overgods to begin with, and they were the personifications of the edicts to begin with. It was only natural that the chief sovereign of light wouldn't be suited to handling an Overgod artifact. It was only reasonable that he would thus be weaker than the 4 chief sovereigns of the edicts. Overgod artifacts, where do they come from, and how did these 5 chief sovereigns acquire them? Linley asked. I'm uncertain. Gislason shook his head. This happened long ago. Even my father and the other 3 didn't know the details, much less me. The chief sovereign of lights is arrogant and domineering, but he has the power to be domineering. After all, he has an Overgod artifact. Overgod artifact, Linley let out a sigh. Can it be that despite the passage of so many years, there hasn't been a second Overgod artifact? No. If there was one, wouldn't the chief sovereigns and sovereigns go wild over it and fight for it? The chief sovereign of light has one, but the chief sovereigns of the other 6 elements do not. I imagine that in their hearts, those 6 chief sovereigns of the laws feel very unhappy about this. If they had any chance to acquire one, would they give it up? Gislason laughed as he spoke. Linley couldn't help but laugh. I wonder what an Overgod artifact looks like. I probably wouldn't recognize one even if I saw one. Overgod artifacts? Only someone at the level of a sovereign can make use of them. There's no point in us acquiring them, in fact, acquiring them would only invite disaster upon ourselves. Gislason changed the topic. Enough about Overgod artifacts. That's a very distant topic. Linley, you say that you wish to go to the divine light plane, but I urge you not to go. Truly, don't go. Linley chuckled. He might be powerful, but he is still a sovereign. Would he lower himself to act against me? Gislason let out a low sigh, then suddenly spoke through divine sense. Linley, I will tell you a secret. Linley was stunned. The 2 were chatting in the hall, but Gislason actually used divine sense to speak. Could the secretly be so great? Patriarch, what is the secret? Linley was puzzled. Linley. Gislason's expression was solemn. I've always suspected something about the deaths of the 4 ancestors of our clan. Suspected something. Linley didn't understand. I suspect that the killer was the chief sovereign of light. Gislason sent. Linley was badly shocked. Gislason continued to speak through divine sense. Although the 4 ancestors of our clan were merely lesser sovereigns, their innate divine abilities were very strange. Their 4 divine abilities could actually combine into one, with their 4 types of divine ability energy able to fuse as well and result in an exceedingly powerful supreme technique. Even high sovereigns such as the chief sovereigns were quite apprehensive. Combine 4 innate divine abilities into one? Linley knew that the divine abilities of the 4 divine beasts clan were rather unusual, but he had no way of understanding what they would be like when used by the 4 ancestors. There was one thing he did know, without question, it would have been far more powerful than when Linley and his peers used them. After all, Linley and the others only carried the lineage of the divine beasts in their veins, they weren't true divine beasts. You say that you suspect the killer was the chief sovereign of light. Why would it be him? Linley asked. First of all, very few people were capable of killing the four ancestors. The four chief sovereigns of the edicts, the chief sovereign of fate doesn't get involved in worldly affairs. The chief sovereign of destruction was on excellent terms with our ancestors. The chief sovereign of death, as long as someone doesn't offend her, she wouldn't do anything to them. The chief sovereign of life is said to be quite kind-hearted and rarely kills mortals, much less sovereigns. In addition, our four ancestors didn't have any conflicts or opposing interests with the chief sovereign of life. Thus, the only one left is the chief sovereign of light. Gislason sent mentally. Linley frowned. The chief sovereign of light has an Overgod artifact. He has enough power to resist the combined innate divine ability of the four ancestors. Gislason's eyes held anger and hatred within them. Although there were 11 chief sovereigns, since the other 6 didn't have Overgod artifacts, there was no way they would be able to kill the four ancestors when they were fighting together. Did he have conflicting interests with our four ancestors? Linley asked mentally. Not a conflicting interest per se, but, back then, our four divine beasts clan was spread throughout the planes of the universe. We were extremely powerful, and there were quite a few people who believed that our four divine beasts clan was the #1 clan of the planes of the universe. But the Augusta clan, there were also many who believed that they were the #1 clan. If there was a conflict, I imagine the only conflict was one of conflicting reputations. Gislason couldn't find anything else either. After all, the four ancestors wouldn't have gone out of their way to go offend the chief sovereign of light either. Fighting over the title of the #1 clan? That can't be right. Linley couldn't believe it. The so-called struggle over the title of #1 clan was a reputational struggle. The chief sovereign of light would kill our four ancestors because of it? This reason doesn't make much sense. I'm not sure either. But logically speaking, he's the only possible culprit. Gislason clearly also felt that his reason wasn't very convincing. Linley, if he really was the one who killed them, then he definitely has malicious feelings towards the four divine beasts clan. He didn't kill us because he didn't care about us, but now that you are a paragon, I'm afraid that he would. Patriarch, he might very well be the killer, but he also might not be. Linley sent. Also, you said that the other chief sovereigns wouldn't be able to kill the four ancestors when they joined forces. But what if they were killed one by one? If someone truly intended to kill them, it's possible that they didn't give our four ancestors a chance to join forces. Gislason was startled. He immediately sent back, the four ancestors were extremely close to each other. They rarely separated. Rarely separated? That doesn't mean they were always together. Linley sent back. Don't worry, Patriarch. Even if the chief sovereign of light was the killer, would he act against me, a deity? Even if he was nervous, he wouldn't be nervous of me, a paragon. After all, a paragon is still just a deity. Gislason, hearing this, let out a bitter laugh. Linley, it seems you have set your mind on going. Right. If I don't make the trip, I won't be satisfied. Linley nodded. After all, this involved his mother. Both he and Wharton wanted to meet the mother who had given birth to them. As for his father had always been thinking about his mother. If you want to go, you should at least let Lord Beirut know. Lord Beirut is on fairly close terms with the Blood Ridge Sovereign, and he knows many things. It would be good for you to ask him his opinion. Gislason didn't want Linley to go, but clearly, he wasn't able to convince Linley. All he could do was entrust his hopes to Beirut. Linley, upon hearing this, had to admit that this was a good idea. Then, Patriarch, please help me make some inquiries. I know that our clan should have a method to communicate with Lord Beirut, right? Linley laughed. Right. In the past, my clone was there. However, now that the crisis is over, my clone has returned. Still, we still have intelligence agents there. Gislason nodded. I will make the arrangements. I imagine that in a little while, Beirut's response will arrive. Linley nodded slightly. He couldn't go wrong listening to Beirut. Then I'll go back now. Linley laughed. He planned to leave tomorrow. Patriarch. Right at this moment, a guard from outside the door ran in. Linley and Gislason both turned to look. The guard bowed, then reported, Patriarch, Elder Linley, someone has arrived asking to meet with Elder Linley. Gislason frowned. Ordinary guests can be instructed to leave. Very many people wished to meet with Linley. Linley wouldn't meet with any commander-level experts, but Gislason would. For those who were too weak, however, they would be refused entry outside the mountain. But, Patriarch, this person says that he is Linley's old friend. His name is, Olivier. The guard said hurriedly. Olivier. Linley was rather surprised. Come, I'll go with you. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 7, Olivier. Linley traversed Dragon Avenue, flying downwards and quickly arriving outside the Skikrite Mountains. He saw Olivier there, floating in the air outside the mountain range. Next to the location where Olivier was hovering, there was also a flourishing iron bark tree. Its lustrous, knife-like metallic leaves, under the light of the blood sun, seemed terrifying. As for Olivier, his black and white hair was tousled and rather mussed. His face was ashen. He seemed quite dispirited. In front of him was a black-haired youth. What happened to Olivier? Linley, seeing this, couldn't help but frown. He seems quite depressed. In Linley's mind, Olivier was an expert who always strove to reach the peak and who wasn't afraid of loneliness. Even when in the most dire of situations, Olivier shouldn't be the sort of person to grow depressed and give up. Thus, the scene in front of Linley puzzled him. Elder Linley, that's the person who claims to be your friend, Olivier. The warriors of his clan reported respectfully. He is indeed my friend. Linley smiled, then flew towards Olivier. Olivier had noticed Linley as well, and he couldn't help but fly towards Linley while squeezing out a smile. It was still quite a stroke of karmic luck for two people of a similar age from the same homeland to meet each other here in the Infernal Realm. Linley. Olivier forced a smile. Haha, Olivier, after the last time we parted, 1,000 years has passed without us meeting again. Linley said with a laugh, and then looked towards the youth next to Olivier. Oh, Olivier, the youth next to you is. Linley realized that there seemed to be a rather baleful aura coming from the youth's forehead. And he seemed quite cold and emotionless. Olivier took the youth's hand, then turned and glanced sideways at Linley. This is my son. Dea. Son. Linley was slightly startled. Olivier had actually gotten married? Olivier had always pursued perfection, and he had never had a wife. Uncle Linley. The cold youth, Dea, bowed fractionally as he spoke. Excellent. Linley laughed and nodded, then said to the nearby Olivier, Olivier, don't just stand there. Come to my place. Let's chat slowly once we get back. Haha, it has been so many years since I have seen you. You even have a son, and you've become a high god. Excellent. Linley laughed as he spoke, then flew alongside Olivier back to his own residence. Moments later, they arrived at Linley's residence. Elder. The guards in front of the residence's gates all saluted respectfully, their eyes filled with a hint of veneration. There were many warriors who were willing to be a guard for Linley's residence. To be a guard for a high god paragon? This was something one could feel very proud of. Dea, come in. Linley laughed as he spoke to the cold youth. Seeing how Dea acted, Linley sighed in his heart. In the past, Olivier was quite cold as well. I didn't expect that his son would be even colder than him, with such a strong, baleful aura, as though he is about to kill someone. Still, Linley understood that it wasn't that Dea was being disrespectful to him, it was that Dea had been like this ever since he was born, and so it was only natural that he had become like this at all times now. After entering the residence. "Hey, Olivier." A large group of people was in the grassy courtyard, and Bibi, who was chatting loudly with everyone else, called out in surprise as he saw Olivier. "Olivier. Long time no see." Reynolds laughed as he walked over to greet him. "Olivier." Wharton and the others who were on friendly terms with Olivier all walked over. In the past, Olivier had stayed at Dragonblood Castle for quite a long period of time, and he was quite familiar with many of the people who lived there. "You all came." Olivier was very surprised as well. All he could do was continue to force a smile as he greeted these people. A large group of people immediately surrounded Olivier and Dea. Linley watched this calmly, musing to himself, "Olivier seems to be rather off." Surrounded by so many people, Olivier had no choice but to chat with them. "Father." Dea tugged at Oliver's hand slightly, clearly not accustomed to being surrounded by so many people. "Enough, everyone, let's break it up. There will be plenty of opportunities to see Olivier in the future. Olivier just returned. Let him rest a bit," Linley said with a laugh. Immediately, the group slowly broke apart, and Linley then walked to stand next to Olivier. He asked softly, "Olivier, is there something on your mind?" Olivier glanced at Linley, then shook his head. "Nothing." Olivier clearly didn't want to discuss it. Seeing the response, Linley didn't pursue this line of questioning. Laughing, he said, "Then stay here at my place. We have many people here, it will be more lively." "Fine." Olivier laughed and nodded. And then, Linley left as well. Within a large, empty courtyard, Dea was seated at the corner of a stone table. The stone table was covered with fruit and food, and Dea was silently eating some of it, not chatting with the others at all. Wharton, Reynolds, and Olivier were all seated together. "That's the way Dea is. He likes the quiet," Olivier explained. "This is a problem with your child-raising methods," Wharton chortled. Olivier forced out a laugh, but didn't discuss this any further. He suddenly looked around, then said, puzzled, "Wharton, Reynolds, when I originally came to the Four Divine Beasts clan, didn't Linley's group live in that large gorge? But on this visit, I can tell that Linley's estate is now incredibly luxurious and takes up a large space. It is quite eye-catching. What's going on? A person's residence would be commensurate to their status." Naturally, Olivier would be puzzled as to why someone would have such a large residence within the Four Divine Beasts clan. "You haven't met with my third bro in over 1,000 years. The past 1,000 years, however, third bro has gained strength faster than ever before." Reynolds laughed. "Oh." Olivier was very surprised. "I'll tell you." Reynolds laughed, then began to explain. "Let's start from when the Four Divine Beasts clan escaped their crisis. The 8 great clans were pressing down upon the Four Divine Beasts clan from right outside the mountains." Reynolds explained everything, including the events in the Netherworld, the events in Tartarus, and even what Linley had done in the planar battlefield. He explained it all in one go. "Paragon." Hearing that Linley had become a paragon, Oliver's eyes turned completely round. Wharton added, "But of course. During the planar war, my big brother actually dueled another paragon named Magnus, right there in the center of the Stellar Rivers corridor. While being watched by countless soldiers and many commanders, my big brother gave Magnus a kick and forced him into chaotic space." "Hey. Olivier, why are you leaving?" Olivier, hearing this, actually rose to his feet and hurriedly walked away. "That's weird," Reynolds didn't understand. Olivier walked right next to Bibi, saying frantically, "Bibi, where's your boss?" Bibi laughed and pointed to the distance. He's in that building over there. My boss is right there. Thanks. Olivier hurriedly moved in that direction, his body flashing forward, reappearing before the building. Bibi, puzzled, frowned. My boss is right there, just a few hundred meters away. Why use divine power to fly? It would only take a few seconds to walk that distance. What's the rush? Olivier pushed open the door to the study of that building, then walked in. He immediately saw Linley, who was currently reading a book. Linley, puzzled, lifted his head, then laughed. Oh, Olivier. Olivier took 3 steps forward, walking to the center of the study. Suddenly, Olivier knelt down, his knees striking hard against the stone floor with a bang sound. Oliver's face was solemn, and his eyes were filled with entreaty. Linley, you have to help me. Rise, quick, rise. Linley was completely stunned by Oliver's actions. Waving his hand, he sent a surge of will-infused divine earth power forward, lifting Olivier up. Olivier looked straight at Linley, who hurriedly said, "Don't be like this. If there's something you need, just tell me. I will definitely help you." Linley walked out from behind the reading table, hurriedly moving to stand in front of Olivier, then pulling Olivier to sit down at a nearby chair. Linley sat as well. "What is going on? Tell me." Linley had known as soon as he had seen Olivier today that Olivier seemed to be a bad situation. But Olivier wasn't willing to discuss it, and so there was nothing Linley could do. This matter, when speaking of it, Olivier smiled bitterly as he spoke. "Linley, in the past, when I left Dylan and the others to adventure alone, I did indeed make a breakthrough while walking that line between life and death. My divine light clone reached the high god level. And then, while taking on a fiend mission, I met Diana. Diana was also a lone traveler who had taken on multiple missions. During that dangerous mission, the two of us quickly grew close, and then Diana and I became husband and wife." Linley nodded slightly. It was indeed quite normal for 2 lone travelers to marry each other and become husband and wife. Roughly 20 years ago, Diana and I had children. A pair of twin boys, Dea and Leah. Olivier sighed. Everything was beautiful. The 4 of us lived a life of peace. Diana and I were both high gods, and so we were able to guarantee that Dea and his brother would live safe lives, but when Dea was 5 years old, a man named Boning led a group of subordinates over. When he found us, do you know what he said? Oliver's eyes were filled with rage. He said, Diana was his wife. Linley was stunned. This man named Bonin told Diana to go with him. Of course we weren't willing, but he had tens of subordinates, all of them high gods. My wife and I weren't able to resist at all. But Diana and I would rather die than agree. But this Bonin threatened Diana. He said that if Diana left with him, he would spare me and our 2 sons. If Diana refused, then he would kill me and our sons. Oliver's eyes became filled with murder as he said this. This Bonin, he gave me a chance to fight him by myself. If I was able to beat him, he would let us go. Olivier clenched his fists. But, I lost. I was far from being a match for him. Linley sighed in his heart. Olivier explained it in a very simple manner, but Linley could completely imagine what that scene was like. A man who wasn't even able to protect his wife and children, and had to watch as others took them away, that sort of pain and grief. For the sake of myself and my 2 sons, Diana left with him. Oliver's tears began to fall. There were many unjust things in this world. If he, Olivier, was a supreme expert, he could have effortlessly killed this enemy. But he wasn't a supreme expert. Or at least, he wasn't for now. Thus, all he could do was watch as his woman left with someone else. But Diana was wrong. Olivier said furiously. That Bonin was a bastard. He actually didn't spare me and my children. After taking Diana away, he sent people to kill us. Linley's face changed. Bonin had first promised to spare Olivier and his children, so as to coax Diana away. But then, he had sent people to kill Olivier. This was indeed excessively vile. Haha, Olivier just laughed coldly. What he didn't know, was that after he took Diana away, I immediately left with my sons, and then I began to fuse with the darkness-type High God spark. By then, Olivier had already reached the High God level in his Divine Light clone, but his Divine Darkness clone was still at the God level. Of course, he had already comprehended 5 profound mysteries, and was only missing the final one. If he were to train normally, in just a few more centuries, Olivier would have broken through on his own. But he wasn't able to wait any longer. Olivier needed to get revenge. In addition, he was a soul mutate. Even if he fused one divine spark, the other divine clone was one which had broken through on its own. Given that he had the soul of a soul mutate, he would still have a chance to fuse profound mysteries in the future. Because Olivier had already comprehended 5 mysteries, the process of fusing with a divine spark was naturally quite fast. In a few short months, he had succeeded. Those people were able to locate me, though, and they pursued me and my children and attacked us. By then, I had already fused the divine spark. By using fused divine power and 2 profound mysteries I had fused long ago, I killed them. Kill them all. Olivier growled. Even before becoming a deity, Olivier had already sensed that there were areas in the laws of light and laws of darkness that were compatible, and had fused a profound mystery from each. Centuries earlier, Olivier had succeeded. After fusing with a divine spark, Olivier had access to fused divine power and fused laws. Oliver's power had increased exponentially, and he became comparable to a 7-star fiend. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 8, Whither to? However, Olivier said bitterly. Although I killed all of those people, there were too many of them. I had to protect Dea and Leah, my 2 sons, at the same time. I was only able to block 2 or 3 of them, not all of them. Clearly, that person named Bonin had given the order to kill me and my 2 sons. In the battle, Leah died. My power was only enough to permit me to protect Dea. Linley sighed in his heart. Even though his power had risen exponentially, Olivier was by himself, while he had 2 burdens to shoulder. Meanwhile, the enemy consisted of a large group of high gods. Once they launched mass attacks, it was quite impressive that Olivier was even able to protect a single son. Olivier, you had months. Why didn't you deliver your children to a city? Linley couldn't help but ask. If Olivier had left the children in a city, wouldn't they be safe? I didn't have enough time. Olivier said bitterly. I wanted to. If I was traveling alone, I definitely would have been able to make it to a city, but I had to bring the 2 of them as well. They weren't even deities, just saints. Their flying speed was too fast. My speed was impacted because I had to help bring them along. In addition, Diana and I lived in a distant gorge. Given our power, bandits wouldn't dare to come make trouble for us, but that gorge was more than a year and a half away from the nearest city. Linley sighed to himself. Oliver's speed was simply too slow. Prior to fusing with the divine spark, Olivier was only an ordinary high god. How fast could he possibly move, given that he was burdened with 2 children? After killing those people, I finally managed to make it to a city with my son. I put Dea in a hotel, and then, by myself, I charged straight for the Stone Mountains of the Skymount Prefecture. Olivier growled. Skymount Prefecture. Linley frowned. Blood Ridge continent was extremely vast. Skymount Prefecture was located towards the center of Blood Ridge continent, and was hundreds of millions of kilometers away from Indigo Prefecture. Right. That person named Bonin was located in Skymount Prefecture. Olivier nodded. Bonin had been extremely arrogant. When he took Diana away, he told me that if I had any ability, I should go seek him out at the Stone Mountains of the Skymount Prefecture. He would be waiting for me there. Linley nodded slightly as he listened to this. He could imagine how arrogant Bonin had acted. The city I had entered wasn't too far away from the Stone Mountains of Skymount Prefecture. Given that my speed increased dramatically after I fused those two types of high god power, in but a single year, I made it to the Stone Mountains. After investigating secretly, I learned that this Bonin was actually the son of the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture. Olivier laughed coldly. I couldn't care less that he was the son of the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture. All I cared about was killing this Bonin and saving my wife, Diana. Linley understood that at that point in time, Olivier was at the brink of insanity. Bonin was untamably unruly, and was not on good terms with his father. Thus, he didn't live with his father, instead living within the Stone Mountains, where he built a castle for himself. Olivier growled. I stealthily made my way in, planning to find Bonin and then kill him. And, indeed, after fusing a divine spark, my power surpassed his by a level. I was almost able to kill him. But, he actually had a drop of Sovereign's might. Olivier laughed bitterly as he spoke. Linley now understood. That drop of Sovereign's might was most likely what the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture had given to his son as a protective measure to save his life if needed. After using Sovereign's might, his power vastly surpassed mine. All I could do was flee, and at that time, my wife, Diana, came out to block Bonin as well, threatening to kill herself. Bonin was disturbed, and in that moment, I made my escape. Olivier said bitterly. After that failure, I understood that I wouldn't be able to kill him by myself. Thus, I had no choice but to secretly slip away. I returned, taking away Dea, and came to Indigo Prefecture. I was planning that since you, Linley, were quietly training here, I would do the same. Although Olivier had grown far more powerful, the trip over to Indigo Prefecture had still taken more than 10 years, as he was carrying his child with him. That child had grown into a youth as well. Linley understood, now, why Dea was so cold, so remote, so baleful. Clearly, Dea had grown up in the midst of hatred. I understood that after that battle, Bonin would only stay in the Stone Mountains if he still had more Sovereign's might and thus had nothing to fear. If he didn't, he would probably be afraid of my return and thus take Diana and leave. His father is the Lord Prefect. Even if I train for 10 million more years, I won't be able to avenge my son or find Diana. He had been in the grips of despair. All he wanted to do was train quietly, but then, Olivier had heard others say that Linley had become a paragon. I had already given up all hope. But I heard, Linley, that you have become a paragon. Olivier looked towards Linley. Olivier knew that Linley was very powerful, at the 7-star fiend level, but behind Bonin was the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture. Thus, Olivier hadn't told Linley about this, as he didn't want Linley to get dragged into this. Skymount Prefecture. Linley nodded slightly. Oliver's grief and misery caused Linley to feel quite moved. His wife had been taken, and one of his sons had been killed. Yet he didn't have the power to fight back or even take revenge. Olivier, don't worry. I will accompany you. Linley nodded. Thank you. Olivier, upon hearing Linley's response, couldn't help but immediately thank you, then say, then Linley, when should we head out? Linley hesitated. How about we head out tomorrow? Olivier couldn't wait at all. His wife had been taken and his son had been killed. Hatred festered in Oliver's heart, gnawing at his soul like locusts. Now that the flames of vengeance had been kindled within his heart once more, Olivier didn't want to waste any more time. Tomorrow. Linley frowned. Tomorrow, Linley was planning to go to the Divine Light Plane. Actually, Linley felt a hint of nervousness about this trip to the Divine Light Plane, after what Gislason had said. He was afraid that the almighty Chief Sovereign of Light really would stoop to killing him. But he had no choice if he wanted to save his mother. He had only one option, to ask the Chief Sovereign of Light to release her. Thus, although it was dangerous, Linley was still going to go. Linley had originally planned to allow his Divine Earth clone to head to the Divine Light Plane. His Divine Earth clone was just one clone, but it too had a mutated soul, and it too was infused with his will. Although the power of the will wasn't as great as that of Linley's original body, the power of his Divine Earth clone was also comparable to the power of Paragon's. Linley's original body was more powerful in terms of power and will than Paragon's. As for his Divine Earth, Wind, and Water clones, the power of their will was slightly weaker, and so they were slightly weaker than Paragon's. For the sake of his mother, Linley was willing to send his Divine Earth clone over. Even if the Chief Sovereign of Light was so shameless as to kill him, Linley would at most lose a Divine Earth clone. Linley would still be a Paragon-level expert. But, with Oliver's request, Linley was now put in a hard position. Indeed, Linley could allow his Divine Earth clone to go to the Divine Light Plane and his original body accompany Olivier to the Skymount Prefecture. But, if both clones simultaneously revealed Paragon-level power in the Divine Light Plane and in the Infernal Realm, anyone with deductive reasoning abilities would immediately understand that Linley was a soul mutate. This was because Paragons generally had one element they specialized in. It was virtually impossible for a person to be in a Paragon in one element, and then also become a Paragon with his other divine clones. It was already quite terrifying for someone to become a Paragon in one element. A person who had two divine clones at the Paragon level was something utterly inconceivable. If Linley revealed Paragon-level power in two different planes with two different bodies, of course others would find it bizarre and investigate. The secret of his soul mutation, for now, Linley didn't want to reveal it. "Linley, you are busy?" Olivier asked. Linley hesitated. "If you have an important matter to attend to, then my matter can be delayed. There's no need to rush it," Olivier said hurriedly. But Linley understood that given Oliver's son had been killed and his wife had been taken, Olivier was undoubtedly thinking about revenge every moment. He wanted to rescue his wife. Boss, the Patriarch is coming." The voice of Bibi, from outside. "Patriarch?" Linley turned his head and saw Gislason striding in, clearly in a hurry. "Patriarch?" Linley hurriedly rose to his feet to welcome him, and the nearby Olivier hurriedly dried his tears and rose as well. Upon entering the room, Gislason hurriedly said, "Linley, just now, I did what you asked me to do and sent someone to deliver a message to Lord Beirut." Lord Beirut's response came immediately. "He asked me to tell you, no matter what, don't go to the Divine Light Plane." Linley was stunned. Divine Light Plane. Olivier now understood as well. Most likely, the reason why Linley had hesitated earlier was because he had to go to the Divine Light Plane on business. Why did Lord Beirut say this? Linley was completely puzzled. Lord Beirut said that when your Divine Fire clone was on the Yulan continent, you had discussed with him the matter of saving your father, friends, and mother. He thus made a trip to the Divine Light Realm and sought out the Chief Sovereign of Light to help you make the request. After all, there are no grudges between Lord Beirut and the Chief Sovereign of Light. Linley couldn't help but feel a surge of gratitude. His Divine Fire clone had merely mentioned this matter, but Beirut had actually made a personal visit to see the Chief Sovereign of Light. But, the Chief Sovereign of Light didn't agree. Gislason said with a sigh. Lord Beirut also asked the Blood Ridge Sovereign, and the Blood Ridge Sovereign responded, that it was impossible to force the Chief Sovereign of Light to restore an angel's freedom. Even if a sovereign went and asked in person, the chances would be low. If you went, there would be no chance at all. That look in his father's eyes appeared in Linley's mind. Father, there's nothing I can do. Linley felt powerless. The chief sovereign of death had said this as well, that even if she went in person, the chances would be low. Now, the blood-rich sovereign had said the same thing, and Beirut had actually gone in person. Linley, when Lord Beirut was discussing this matter with the chief sovereign of light, he also said that you were willing to be the chief sovereign's emissary, in exchange for your mother's freedom. But the chief sovereign of light still would not agree. Gislason said. Even becoming a sovereign's emissary was useless. Linley no longer had any cards left to play. In addition, Lord Beirut told me that I had to stop you, that you absolutely could not be permitted to go to the divine light plane. It's fine if you don't go, but if you were to come face to face with the chief sovereign of light, it was very possible that the chief sovereign would immediately kill you. This isn't just because of the issue between you and the Augusta clan, there's another reason as well. Gislason said in an urging manner. Another reason. Linley couldn't think of anything he had done to offend the chief sovereign of light. Was it because he had driven Magnus into chaotic space? But Magnus was a paragon of fate, and an emissary of the chief sovereign of fate, not the chief sovereign of light. The only reason he had chosen to help Montillo was because he had a long, close relationship with the Augusta Patriarch. What is the reason? Linley asked. Lord Beirut said that for now, this reason could not be made public, which is why he didn't tell the messenger. Gislason said. Linley nodded. After so many years, Linley had developed great trust for Beirut. Then for now, I'll give up the notion of going to the divine light plane, Linley murmured to himself, and then turned to look at Olivier. Olivier, tomorrow, I will accompany you. We will head out and go to the Skymount Prefecture. A look of surprise and joy appeared on Oliver's face. The very next day. At the gates to Linley's estate. Boss, just let me go with you. I'm bored to death. BB chortled. Linley wasn't able to dissuade BB, and so BB tagged along as well. This trip to Skymount Prefecture, as far as Linley was concerned, held no dangers or challenges. Although, according to legends, the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture was fairly powerful. Compared to a paragon, he was still much weaker. This was a trip for Linley, BB, Olivier, and Dea. Dea was only a saint. Although they hadn't planned to bring him along, Dea himself had steadfastly insisted on going. His mother was at Skymount Prefecture, after all. And thus, Olivier had asked Linley his opinion on whether or not they should bring Dea along, and Linley, being completely confident, had nodded and permitted Olivier to bring Dea. Let's go. We will be able to reach Skymount Prefecture in under a year. Linley smiled, and then, in midair, an enormous black sword-shaped metallic life form appeared. Linley's group of 4 immediately entered the metallic life form. Under Linley's control, the metallic life form slashed through the skies, transforming into a black blur as it disappeared into the horizons of the Skyrite Mountains and flew towards the east. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 9, Bonin. In the air above Skymount Prefecture, a black, sword-shaped metallic life form was hovering there. Linley, Olivier, and the other 2 were standing at the front cabin within the metallic life form, staring through the translucent metal to the mountains ahead of them. Right. The Stone Mountains are up ahead. Oliver's eyes were shining. While flying here, Olivier had been astonished at the speed of Linley's metallic life form. Within 1 short year, they had actually arrived at Skymount Prefecture from Indigo Prefecture. What he didn't understand, was that when Linley had gone from Tartarus of the Nether Sea to the Abyssal Mountain, a distance of tens of billions of kilometers, he had spent less than 10 years traveling. Describe Diana's appearance to me. Linley said. Olivier nodded. Diana is slightly shorter than me, standing roughly up to my eyebrows. She has straight, shoulder-length hair which is a deep jade color, almost black. Within the castle inside the Stone Mountains, She is the mistress. Finding her should be easy. Right. Linley nodded. At the same time, the metallic lifeform disappeared, and Linley's group of 4 stood there in midair, with Olivier holding his son, Dea, by the hand. Wait momentarily. Linley willed his divine sense to spread out, instantly encapsulating nearly half of the entire Eustone Mountains, which naturally included that castle. In the castle, there were 1,556 individuals, mostly men, with a few women. As for someone like Olivier had described, a woman with shoulder-length hair that was deep green, there was only one. Within the castle, the balcony of a small room, a woman was staring into the distance, dressed in an ink jade dress. She was the mistress of this castle, Diana. Leah, my child, mother is so sorry. Diana said softly, a hint of sadness in her eyes. Ever since that day more than 10 years ago, when Olivier had attacked the castle and informed her of Leah's death, Diana began to hate Bonin all the more. Originally, she hated Bonin for tearing her apart from her family, but now, she hated Bonin for not honoring his promise and for attacking her sons and husband, resulting in Leah's death. How could it have come to this? Why did all of this have to happen? Diana shut her eyes, tears rolling down her face. Right at this moment. Are you Oliver's wife, Diana? A voice rang out in Diana's mind. Diana was startled, and she hurriedly opened her eyes. Who is it? Diana hurriedly looked around, but she was unable to see a single possible suspect. And then, that voice continued, don't worry or be suspicious. I am Oliver's friend. He invited me to take you out of here. Diana continued to stare around herself, but wasn't able to find the person who was sending her the message. She calmed down, then responded, right, I am Diana. But, I cannot leave. Cannot leave. Right. If I were to leave, then the lord of this castle, Bonin, would definitely kill Olivier and our son. Diana said. He doesn't have that ability. That calm, yet assured voice echoed in her mind. Diana wanted to say something else, but suddenly, a raucous series of noises could be heard from the distance. Diana couldn't help but stare towards the distant disturbance, confused. She saw a group of guards fly out from the walls of the castle, with one shouting rebukingly, "This is Castle Eustone. If you want to enter the castle, wait for us to send a message first." The shouts rang out repeatedly, and some people even pulled out divine artifacts as they flew over to block the newcomers. But the 4 blurs didn't hesitate at all, flying straight past Ollie and Dea. Diana opened her eyes wide, stunned. Linley's group of 4 flew past in awe-inspiring fashion, completely ignoring the blocking guards. Most of those guards were gods, and only a few were high gods. A gust of earth and yellow energy rippled past them, and it seemed as though those guards were like pellets of sand, carried away by the waves of the sea. All of them were knocked flying. Diana couldn't help but feel surprised. The other guards of Eustone Castle were all stunned as well. "Milord, those 4 are too powerful. We aren't able to stop them." Those guards hurriedly reported to a black-robed man. The black-robed man's face changed. Olivier. Last time, Olivier had secretly snuck in, and then battled with Bonin. Many of the people at Eustone Castle thus recognized Olivier. The black-robed man ordered, "Hurry up and find the master of the castle. He is elsewhere in the Eustone Mountains. Hurry and find him." "Yes, milord." Immediately, 20 nearby guards flew out of Eustone Castle in search of Bonin. "The 4 of you, please halt," the black-robed man called out in a clear voice. At the same time, many of the guards gathered together behind the black-robed man as he flew towards Linley's group of 4. In addition, a large amount of guards continued to fly out from places throughout the castle, wishing to block Linley's advance. Rumble. Linley's group of 4 flew forward, and it was like a mountain was sweeping through. All of the guards who wanted to block them were knocked flying backwards by waves of earth and yellow energy. Linley's group of 4 was completely unstoppable. Seeing this, the black-robed man's face became exceedingly ugly to behold. He could tell that the enemies were powerful indeed. "Unless you want to die, stay away," BB called out smugly in a loud voice. "The 4 of you, if you advance any further, then I will attack," the black-robed man said in a clear voice. Although he spoke quite boldly, after having seen Linley's power, the black-robed man knew very well that if these enemies wanted to kill them, it would be simplicity itself. After all, killing high gods was very easy, but to do what Linley had done, to knock them backwards without injuring them, that was quite difficult. Linley's group of 4 flew directly for Diana. Diana stared as these 4 flew over, the castle guards completely unable to stop them. She couldn't help but feel stunned. "Mother!" Dea was the first to call out as he flew towards Diana. Olivier flew over alongside him as well. "Dea!" Diana's eyes instantly turned red. She hurriedly went over and tightly hugged her son. Although her son was already an adult now, that familiar spiritual aura, Diana instantly recognized him. "Diana!" Olivier said softly. Diana turned to look at Olivier. She couldn't help but throw herself into Oliver's arms. These 2, husband and wife, felt both excited and heartsick. Linley stood there in midair. BB, seeing this, couldn't help but smile. "Ollie, why did you come back?" Diana raised her head, looking at Olivier. She said frantically, "Last time, when you came, it was because you didn't know how powerful Bonin was. And Bonin is very tyrannical, you were lucky to be able to escape last time. This time, alas." Diana was very worried. Bonin was extremely powerful, after all. And behind him was the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture. "Don't worry." Olivier revealed a smile. "Mother, don't worry. We have Uncle Linley." Dea urged as well. That cold, emotionless youth, upon seeing his mother, seemed to have become a child again. "Linley." Diana raised her head, looking at the distant Linley and BB in confusion. "You mean them?" "Right." Olivier smiled and nodded. "But Bonin has his father, who is terrifying. He isn't just the Lord Prefect of the Skymount Prefecture, he is also a sovereign's emissary with a sovereign artifact. He is extremely powerful." Diana said hurriedly. The Infernal Realm had 108 Lord Prefects, but not all of them had a sovereign artifact. Olivier couldn't help but laugh as he reflected on Linley's power. A sovereign artifact? Even an expert with 3 sovereign artifacts, much less 1, was no match for a paragon. The paragon might not be able to kill such a person, but would still be able to drive that person into chaotic space. "Uncle Linley is a paragon," Dea said hurriedly. Paragon." Diana blinked, stunned. She was completely stunned by this word, paragon. Paragon, these were legendary figures who represented invincibility amongst deities. "Diana, where is that bastard, Bonin?" Oliver's eyes had a savage light in them as he spoke. Diana was somewhat hesitant, but she still answered. "He went to gather blood mist flowers. He should still be within the Stone Mountains." "Blood mist flowers? What's that?" Olivier didn't understand. "There's nothing special about them. They are just a type of flower." Diana clearly didn't want to discuss it. "Forget about that. We need to go find Bonin, but the Stone Mountains are so large. How can we find him? The divine sense of a high god only stretched to 1,000 meters or so. To rely on it to search an entire vast mountain range was indeed impractical." Linley, hovering there in midair, finally spoke. "Olivier, I've already found that Bonin fellow." Diana, Dea, and Olivier all stared at Linley, astonished. The castle guards have already located Bonin, Linley laughed calmly. He had noticed the conversation between that squad of guards and Bonin, and so naturally he knew which one Bonin was, now. Actually, it was easy to tell who Bonin was. This was because although there were quite a few people within the Stone Mountains, Bonin was traveling with 10 subordinates, all high gods. In the Stone Mountains, most likely only Bonin alone would be able to do such a thing. Follow me, Linley said with a calm laugh. Olivier immediately led Diana and Dea to follow as Linley and Bibi flew out of the castle. As for the maids and guards of the castle, all they could do was watch as the mistress of the castle left. They weren't able to do a thing about it. In a separate region of the Stone Mountains, Bonin was a big fellow, with a back as muscular as a tiger's and a waist as thick as a bear's. He was nearly 2 meters tall, and his face was fairly handsome. He had thick black eyebrows and a pair of energetic, lively eyes. Currently, Bonin was holding a flower in his hand. This flower seemed rather blurry, while at the same time it had a hint of red color swirling about it. The blood mist flower was a very pretty type of flower. But of course, it had no practical use, save for being admired aesthetically. What did you say? Bonin's face changed. Master, that man named Olivier, he came back. And he brought someone. The guard said hurriedly. The person he brought is very powerful. All those guards were unable to stop him. We could only watch as he stormed into the castle. Per orders from his lordship, we came to notify you, master. Bastard. A savage light appeared in Bonin's eyes. That useless piece of trash. I spared his life last time. Who would have thought that instead of being smart enough to f***ck off, he would actually return. Follow me. Bonin gave the order. Master. The leader of Bonin's personal guard, a white-browed, grim-looking man, said hurriedly, last time, Olivier saw your power, and yet this time, he dares return. Clearly, he is prepared for you. The guards just now also said that all the guards of the castle combined were unable to stop them. This person's power is most likely comparable to a lord prefect's. If you go, the repercussions. Bonin couldn't help but come to a halt. He clenched his fists, and the stalk of the blood mist flower in his hand was twisted as well. Can it be that I'm supposed to just watch as someone takes my wife away? Bonin said frantically. Master, your life is more important. As for the mistress, let's go find the Lord Prefect and then come up with an idea. The guard urged. But right at this moment. Don't try to talk him out of it. It is too late for that. A calm voice echoed in everyone's mind. Bonin's face changed dramatically, and he raised his head, staring into the distance. 5 figures flew over at high speed. Bonin instantly recognized Diana and Olivier. Diana and Olivier were currently holding hands, appearing quite intimate. Upon seeing this, Bonin couldn't suppress his rage from building. His face turned red, and his eyes began to blaze as he pointed into air and howled, Olivier! Release my wife! Your wife! Olivier was so furious that his eyes were filled with a ferocious light as well. Nana! Bonin roared angrily. All these years, have I ever been the slightest bit disrespectful to you? Why are you always like this? I've always done whatever you wanted, and I've always given you whatever you wanted. You wanted to see blood mist flowers, so I personally led my people to search the entire mountain range for blood mist flowers. But you... Diana was stunned, but then she replied in a cold voice, Bonin. I am Oliver's wife. Not yours. Also, you sent people to kill Leah. Do you think I could possibly forgive you after that? But you and I were married first. Bonin roared back angrily. Diana shook her head, saying nothing further. Bonin lowered his head, looking at the blood mist flower. He had searched the entire mountain range for this flower, all because he wanted to coax Diana and make her happy. When he finally found the flower, he had been longing to bring it back and see her smile. Haha, women, haha, Bonin began to laugh from sheer rage. My heart is dead towards you, now. Bonin stared fixedly at Diana and Olivier. So the two of you are quite close to each other, eh? Then I will let you two die together. Bang. Bonin's body began to emit a black aura. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 10, Right and Wrong. The aura of black energy swirled around Bonin, making him look like a savage fiend. Bonin suddenly leapt forward, and the ground beneath him instantly split apart, with a deep crevice in the earth appearing beneath where his feet had been. Rocks and sand flew everywhere, while Bonin himself charged forward lightning fast towards Linley's group of four. A long black spear appeared in Bonin's hand, and his long spear shot out like a giant python that was ravenously attempting to devour Linley's group. Bonin's eyes were bloodshot, and he was filled with a murderous intent. The adamantine heavy sword appeared in Linley's hand. An earthen yellow aura swirled around it, and quite casually, Linley swept it towards Bonin. Although his movements seemed slow, the adamantine heavy sword's speed was actually several times faster than that of the long spear, and it struck Bonin directly on his body. Whap! Bonin, who had been charging upwards, was knocked down to the ground, smashing against the rocky mountain and shattering it. Impossible! Bonin looked at Linley, stunned. And this, his face steadied. Letting out a deep growl, he sent the long spear in his hand flying towards Linley. Swish! A translucent ripple shot out from the long spear towards Linley. From the center of Linley's forehead, an extremely minute void wave sword ripple shot out, effortlessly shattering that translucent spear ripple attack. However, because the void wave sword was too small, after destroying that translucent spear ripple, it too collapsed. The nearby BB gave Linley a puzzled glance. Boss Soul is incredibly strong. When he uses his own spiritual energy, the effect is more than 10 times more powerful than when he uses Sovereign's might. When infused with his will, although it might be a bit weak in terms of profound mysteries, the soul attacks of my boss isn't much weaker than the likes of Magnus. To kill someone like Bonin is simplicity itself. So why is it that boss intentionally spared him? BB had been with Linley for far too long. He knew exactly how powerful Linley was. If that void wave sword ripple had been just slightly larger, it would have killed Bonin. But Linley had chosen not to do so. Not good. Those guards all grew very tense. But they were clearly far too weak. They couldn't even compete against Bonin, much less challenge Linley. Haha, seeing the situation, Bonin began to laugh wildly. No wonder, no wonder. So you two adulterers managed to invite such a powerful expert to help out. Most likely, even amongst Lord Prefect level experts, this person would be ranked quite highly. Haha, if you want to kill me, then kill me. To die in the hands of an expert like you isn't shameful. Bonin actually stopped fighting. Linley was rather surprised. But as soon as Bonin's words came out, whoosh! He suddenly dove into the ground, fleeing so fast that even Linley was somewhat surprised. This was because the speed at which Bonin moved was actually even faster than the speed at which he had attacked just now. Linley secretly sighed in praise. This Bonin seemed to have gone berserk, but he actually is quite the schemer. Linley was in no rush, instead simply descending. Linley's left foot stepped heavily onto the ground. Rumble, an invisible rippling surge of power spread out through the ground. Bonin, who was currently fleeing for his life at high speed underground, wasn't able to dodge at all. This invisible ripple grew larger and larger, until it finally struck him. Bang! Bonin's body trembled, and he spat out a mouthful of fresh blood. Linley himself disappeared, then reappeared right next to Bonin. It was world walking. You won't be able to escape. Linley stretched his hand out, grabbing Bonin by the shoulder, then charging upwards, preparing to leave the underground. Humph! Bonin sent his long spear stabbing towards Linley's chest. Clang! A ripple spread out from Linley's body. The spear thrust didn't harm Linley at all. How is this possible? Bonin's face changed dramatically. He was still a 6-star fiend, and one who was using sovereign power. Linley didn't use any sort of armor at all, and yet, the defense he was using formed from divine earth power alone was able to block the blow. This was too terrifying. Even your father would be unable to harm me, much less you. Linley gave Bonin a calm glance while at the same time dragging Bonin above ground. Defenses infused with will were quite frightening indeed. Even Linley wasn't able to kill Magnus, and was only able to drive him into chaotic space. From this, one could imagine how powerful that sort of defense was. Linley's will was even more powerful than the will of Magnus. Although he was somewhat weaker when it came to defensive profound mysteries, he wasn't that much weaker. It was indeed as Linley had said, the energy defense he created was impenetrable to Lord Prefect level experts. Linley could let them attack freely, and they still wouldn't be able to do anything to him. Who is he? Bonin was now completely stunned. This sort of power was too vast. He was like a tiny creek who had encountered a vast, endless ocean. He no longer had any thoughts of fighting back. Linley tossed Bonin towards the ground, sending him flying towards Olivier and Diana. Bonin, who had been feeling dispirited, instantly was once more enraged upon seeing Olivier and Diana. He rose to his feet, wanting to charge forward and attack again. Seeing this, Linley couldn't help but frown. He stretched his hand out, and immediately, 108 rays of earthen yellow light flew out, surrounding and trapping Bonin within them. A spherical prison was formed, with Bonin crushed inside it. Bonin bellowed ferociously, wanting to burst it apart. It is useless. Linley said calmly. You are a 6-star fiend. Even using sovereign power, you are unable to escape. Originally, this technique only had a compressive effect, but Linley had changed it and combined it with his Blackstone prison ability. The spherical prison, aside from possessing a powerful compressive effect, also created an energy cage that was extremely tough to break. There was no way for a person to escape. So a day like this came for even you, Bonin. Diana said angrily. Father, kill him and avenge my older brother. Dea said frantically. The corners of Oliver's eyes were twitching, and he angrily walked towards Bonin. Bonin, trapped in the cage, began to bellow. Diana, have I, Bonin, ever mistreated you? Whatever you wanted, I gave you. Whatever you disliked about me, I changed. In order to make you happy, I was willing to lower my head and bend the knee to my father, and ask to borrow money from him so that I could buy whatever you wanted. Diana, tell me, why did you betray me? Diana just stared at him coldly. Haha, you left our home, and I searched the entire world for you. This blood-rich continent is an enormous place, and by the time I found you, I saw that you had actually gotten married to this useless piece of garbage named Olivier. And you had children. Bonin was so angry, he was laughing. I didn't kill you. I took you back home, and I tried to coax you to come back to me, to change your mind. But you. Bonin was in an utterly berserk state now. When we married, did I force you into it? You married me willingly. Bonin bellowed with rage. Diana stared furiously at Bonin. Bonin, yes, I did agree to marry you, but what did you do? You kept on taking a fancy to other women, and you'd bring them back. And, you didn't even spare my little sister. Before marrying you, you had me completely fooled, but after marrying you, I saw what type of person you truly are. Of course I was going to leave. The farther I could go, the better. Bonin looked like a caged, berserk tiger. His eyes flashed with ferociousness. Right. I took a fancy to those women, but that was just out of lust, understand? Bonin howled angrily. So what if I, Bonin, took a fancy to some women and snatched them, bringing them back to serve me? I only had a single wife. I wasn't like my father and those others, who married multiple women. I only had one wife. You. As for those other women, that was just lust. Understand? Look at those women. Did I keep any of them for more than a month? Is it wrong for me to be a bit lusty? You are too domineering and tyrannical. Diana shook her head. You feel that you did nothing wrong, but I can't accept what you did. Especially the way you treated my little sister. Fine, I admit it, I'm domineering and tyrannical. Bonin laughed angrily. But after I brought you back this time, I didn't touch another woman again, right? Too late. Diana said coldly. Just because you didn't touch any women this time didn't mean that what you did in the past didn't happen. I've already seen through you. And what makes me the angriest, is that when I agreed to go back with you, you said that you would spare Ollie and my 2 children. But in reality. Haha. Bonin laughed loudly, savagery flashing in his eyes. Spare them? My woman was together with another man, and even had children with him. You tell me. Could I possibly let that man live and let those 2 spawns of sin live? Nobody can touch that which belongs to me. If someone does, I'll make sure he dies. The black aura had already disappeared from Bonin's body. His sovereigns might have been used up. Linley dispelled the prison part of his technique, leaving behind only the compressive power. This pure compressive power alone was enough to bind Bonin. Olivier walked forward coldly. Bonin, you killed my son, Leah. Today, you will pay with your life. Olivier didn't waste any words, and that mystic Isis word appeared in his hands. Kill me. Bonin snickered as he looked at Olivier. Come then. Let me tell you something, Olivier. I, Bonin, always have a backup plan. The body I have been keeping at Eustone Castle is just one of several. My other bodies aren't even here, they are training in seclusion. It is no big deal if you kill one of my divine clones. There will come the day when I will let you know what the consequences for angering me are. Bonin looked towards Diana. Diana, you whore, since you are determined to leave me, then I'll tell you this, there will come the day when I will destroy you, I swear it. I will personally destroy you. Diana, hearing this, couldn't help but feel her heart tremble. Olivier just stared coldly at Bonin. In an emotionless voice, he said, destroy her? If you have the ability to do so, then have your other divine clones come over. I'll be waiting for you. Fine. I'll come find you. Bonin had a man-eating look in his eyes. As for Olivier, his gaze was as cold as his sword. I'll be respectfully awaiting your arrival at all times. Today, though, I'll first destroy this clone. Olivier finished his words, and then stabbed out with his mystic Isis word. The compressed Bonin was completely unable to fight back. In reality, without the aid of sovereign power, Bonin wasn't a match for Olivier at all. A sword pierced through Bonin's skull. Bonin's eyes dimmed. This is indeed just one of Bonin's divine clones. His other divine clones are not present. Olivier realized, through divine sense, that only a single divine spark was knocked out. Linley and Bibi just watched these events occur. In their minds, they sighed. Who was right? Who was wrong? From Bonin's perspective, he was indeed sincere in his love towards Diana. But there was nothing that could be done, Diana's feelings for him were dead. As Bonin saw it, it was Olivier who had taken his wife. Of course he had to kill him. But from Oliver's perspective, he and Diana loved each other and had children together. Their calm, blissful life was destroyed. Bonin had stolen his wife and killed his son. Of course Olivier had an irreconcilable hatred for Bonin. As for Diana, she wasn't able to stand Bonin any longer and had left him in search of a new life. But Bonin had then killed her son. Who was in the right? Who was in the wrong? Olivier, where is Leah buried? Diana asked. I want to see him. Leah's death had been a huge blow to Diana. All right. Olivier nodded. Then let's go. Linley and Bibi immediately led Oliver's family of 3 into the metallic life form, then departed. Only, this time, they didn't head back to Indigo Prefecture. Instead, first paying a visit to the place where Leah had been buried. Linley didn't kill the members of Bonin's personal guard either. Master, the guards had watched everything happen without being able to resist. The white-browed leader of the guards furrowed his brows. Skymount Prefecture. Blackcloud Mountains. The Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture lived here. The prefectural soldiers stationed here numbered in the millions. Lord Prefect, young Master Bonin's most powerful divine clone has died. The white-browed man suddenly appeared here. Actually, he also played the role of message relayer, and would often inform the Lord Prefect about what was happening to Bonin. The Lord Prefect, who had been seated, suddenly rose to his feet, his eyes flashing savagely. He died. And what did you do? Lord Prefect, that person was too powerful. Terrified, the white-browed man fell to his knees. In terms of being domineering and tyrannical, this Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture was even more terrifying than his son. The white-browed man was terrified that, in his rage, the Lord Prefect would kill him. Tell me what happened. The Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture growled. Yes, Lord Prefect. That day, young Master Bonin, the white-browed man began to explain in detail. He even gave a rough description of the battle between Linley and Bonin. Listening to this, the Lord Prefect began to frown deeply. After the white-browed man finished speaking, he gave the order while frowning, "Oh, left after boarding a black, sword-shaped metallic life form." Fine. Per my orders, every single intelligence agent within Skymount Prefecture needs to be on watch. If any of them find a black, sword-shaped metallic life form fly past them, especially one with 5 individuals inside, they must report it. Yes. The white-browed man, upon hearing this, instantly understood that the Lord Prefect was going to take revenge. But the white-browed man felt puzzled. After hearing what I said, the Lord Prefect should understand how terrifying that person was. Why is it that he still dares to seek revenge? From watching that earlier battle, the white-browed man was able to guess that the brown-haired man's strength should be ranked amongst the top-tier Lord Prefects. The Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture shouldn't be confident in his ability to win. After the white-browed man departed, the Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture waved his sleeves, and a surge of destruction-type divine power swept out, closing the door. Bonin. This child is too arrogant and solitary. He never listens to me. I had wanted to let him go out and adventure a bit, but who would have imagined, ugh, a faint, baleful aura appeared on his face. Bonin's most powerful divine clone is dead. His future is now uncertain. Humph, you killed my son, humph, 1,000 years ago, I would have had to just let this stand. But now, I want to see who did it. The Lord Prefect hesitated a moment, then waved his hand. A jade-green box appeared in his hand. He opened the box, which had a sheet of green paper within it. Atop the sheet of paper, there was a bracelet, and atop the bracelet there were 9 green beads inlaid into it. The Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture looked at the bracelet. He couldn't help but take a deep breath, and then his eyes began to glow. It is time to use it. The Lord Prefect placed the bracelet on his right arm. Upon wearing this bracelet, it seemed as though the Lord Prefect's very aura had changed. The Lord Prefect pondered for a moment, and then his body divided into two. One had long black hair, while the other had long silver hair. The one with long silver hair took the jade green box, storing it away, then left the room through the door. As for the Lord Prefect with long black hair, this one remained standing within the room. Once I use this. The Lord Prefect with black hair frowned. Instantly, the Lord Prefect with silver hair who was already next to the door came to a halt. He retrieved the jade green box, removing that slip of green paper from within it. Crackle, a surge of terrifying energy emanated from his palms. The green paper trembled momentarily, but didn't shatter. It is hard for even me to destroy this sheet of paper. The silver-haired Lord Prefect waved his hand and retrieved an interspatial ring, bound it with blood, then stored the green sheet of paper into the interspatial ring. Applying a bit of force, he crushed the interspatial ring with his fingers. That sheet of paper was gone now. Haha, from today onwards, no one else will know this secret. The silver-haired Lord Prefect laughed as he left. As for the black-haired Lord Prefect, he lowered his head to look at the bracelet around his arms, then smiled slightly. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 11, The Lord Prefect of Skymount. The black, sword-shaped metallic life form sped through the skies of the Infernal Realm. Within the metallic life form, Linley's group of 5 was seated around a table. Linley, the reason Diana and I are able to be together once more is all because of you. Thank you. Olivier raised his cup of wine, then took a sip. Haha, the nearby Bibi laughed loudly. Olivier, on the way over to Skymount Prefecture, I never saw you truly smile a single time. Even if you did smile, it seemed quite forced. But now it seems, you are smiling so widely, your eyes have turned into slits. Bibi teased him intentionally. Olivier, hearing this, just laughed and glanced back at the nearby Diana. The two, husband and wife, glanced at each other. It was quite sweet. Linley, seeing this, couldn't help but laugh as well, but suddenly he then frowned. How irritating. Bibi let out a dissatisfied mutter as well. Olivier, who was in an excellent mood, just laughed. Don't worry about them. Our metallic life form is flying through the air, and the Infernal Realm is filled with countless bandits. It is very normal for them to use their divine sense to investigate us. Although they are rather irritating, there's nothing we can do about it. What, are we supposed to go out and chastise them, one by one? Just now, a divine sense had swept through the metallic life form. The Infernal Realm did indeed have countless bandits. Although this sort of thing happened quite often, each time one was scouted out through divine sense, one would still feel rather uncomfortable. All those bandits dare to do is to scout us out. Upon discovering that we are high gods, they no longer dare make trouble for us. Bibi said disdainfully. Olivier. Linley said. How much farther are we from that place you spoke of? This trip they were making was to the place where Oliver's eldest son, Leah, had died. Her son had died, but Diana had yet to go see his grave. How could she feel at ease unless she went? Olivier let out a sigh. Soon. Given the speed at which this metallic life form that you control flies at, Linley, most likely in just 5 or 6 days, we will arrive. Linley, when the time is right, lessen the speed. I want to take a good look as well, as I need to verify the location. That place was in a mountain, after all. Don't worry. We were in a hurry to get to the Skymount Prefecture, but there's no need for us to be in a hurry on our return. Linley laughed calmly. Linley had been planning to go to the Divine Light Plane, but after Beirut arranged for that message to be delivered to him, Linley temporarily gave up that notion. Within the vast, boundless mountain range, there were 2 figures who were standing atop a mountain. A black, sword-shaped metallic life form, with 5 people inside, one a saint. That's right, the one that just flew past. One of them, a man with short golden hair, stared towards the direction the metallic lifeform had flown. The bald youth next to him laughed. This matches perfectly with the report that was sent to us by the communications squad earlier. However, this metallic lifeform flies quite fast. The last report came from tens of millions of kilometers away. It's only been 2 short days since that report. On average, this means they are able to travel 10 million kilometers or so each day. This speed truly was stunning. After all, for most metallic life forms, traveling even 1 million kilometers a day was impressive. What they didn't know was that this rate of 10 million kilometers a day wasn't even Linley going all out. In addition, this metallic life form was just an ordinary one, not a high-level one. Given how fast it is moving, this metallic life form must be an extremely high-level one. In addition, the controller of it must be extremely powerful. The intelligence agent came to this conclusion. While tracking Linley's movements, they continued to immediately report back to their headquarters. Their headquarters then transmitted this information to each of the other outposts. Linley's journey was being tracked. A solitary, sickle-shaped black metallic lifeform was hovering in the air above a mountain range. Within the metallic lifeform, the black-haired Lord Prefect of Skymount Prefecture was standing at the front, staring through the translucent metal to the land ahead of him. 3 people were standing respectfully by his side, one of whom was the white-browed man. Based on your calculations, didn't you say that this group should be passing through this location? The Lord Prefect said coldly. One of the 3 men by his side, a silver-haired elder, bowed and said, Lord Prefect. Based on the projected trajectory of this group, they should indeed pass by this location. In addition, not too long ago, a report came from an intelligence agent that the metallic lifeform was headed in this direction. But I don't see them. The Lord Prefect gave him a sideways glance. The silver-haired elder couldn't help but tremble, then hurriedly said respectfully, Lord Prefect, don't worry. Even if they changed their arc slightly, given our many intelligence agents, we will definitely discover them. Lord Prefect. Right at this moment, the white-browed man suddenly spoke. The Lord Prefect couldn't help but glance at him, and the white-browed man immediately bowed and said, Lord Prefect, I suddenly thought of something. Speak. The Lord Prefect said calmly. Lord Prefect, in the past, young Master Bonin sent people to pursue and kill that Olivier and his 2 children. Back then, the warriors that were sent out managed to encounter Olivier within a few 100,000 kilometers of this location. In that battle, all of the warriors died. However, they also killed one of Oliver's children. Now that Diana and Olivier are together once again, and given that Diana has never gone to visit her dead son, I think, she might perhaps be going now. The white-browed man said. Actually, after Linley and Olivier had killed Bonin, Diana had spoken aloud regarding her desire to go visit the place where her son had been killed. Although the white-browed man and the guards were fairly far away from Diana, they were still able to make out her words. But the white-browed man also understood that if he immediately provided this information to the Lord Prefect, and they went there to set up a trap, like a hunter waiting for a rabbit, and then Linley's group changed their plans for some reason, the Lord Prefect would probably, in his rage, kill the white-browed man after waiting in vain. For him to now bring it up, however, meant that he was rendering a great merit. For the sake of his life, he had to choose to act this way. Oh! The Lord Prefect, hearing this, immediately felt that this made sense. When a mother's son died, of course the mother would want to go see him one more time. This made perfect sense. Excellent. The Lord Prefect nodded slightly towards the white-browed man. Let us now go to the place where Diana's son died. Your subordinate will guide you. The white-browed man said respectfully. The Lord Prefect was quite satisfied with the white-browed man's cleverness. That sickle-shaped metallic lifeform instantly pierced through the skies, moving like a giant wind knife as it flew towards the direction of the location where Olivier had battled against his enemies. This nameless mountain range was quite vast in scope, and its peaks and valleys extended off into the distance. Actually, the majority of mountain ranges in the Infernal Realm were far larger than the mountain range of magical beasts of the Yulan continent, and they had far more experts as well. But of course, in the eyes of Linley and Olivier, those so-called demigods and gods truly weren't worth mentioning. Within one mountain gorge, there was a lake of black-colored water, and at the sides of the lake, there was a tomb that was made from an enormous stone sculpture. Olivier, Diana, and Dea were standing in front of this tomb. As for Linley and Bibi, they stood to one side. "Leah, my son," Diana couldn't help but kneel down, her tears flowing. That cold, distant youth, Dea, began to cry as well. The death of his elder brother was clearly something that had been etched deep into his memories. Linley and Bibi looked at each other. They could do nothing but remain silent. From the reactions of this family of three, Linley could sense how they must have all been on very close terms with each other. Diana truly did love Olivier and her children. Perhaps Diana didn't like Bonan's type of person, and preferred this sort of warm, gentle home. Linley sighed to himself. Olivier, Diana, Bonan, their story was indeed a tragedy. Bonan's most powerful divine clone had died, but he had sworn to destroy Diana. Given Oliver's abilities, I don't need to worry about him. Linley couldn't help but walk over to the side of the lake. And Bibi followed him. Bibi sent mentally, a bitter look on his face, "Boss, I feel quite depressed as well, seeming how saddened Oliver's family is. Let's just wait over here." Linley sent back. A long time later. "Linley, we're fine now." Olivier led his wife and son over. "Apologies. We made you wait quite a long time. Let's return to Indigo Prefecture." "Right." Linley nodded. And then, Linley frowned and glanced off into the distance. He saw an enormous sickle-shaped metallic life-form fly over at high speed. It looked like a giant wind knife, and was flying straight towards this gorge, so fast that it caused wild air currents to erupt, sending quite a few trees and branches flying everywhere within the gorge. "Who is it?" Bibi frowned. "Looking for us." Linley mused to himself. Since they had flown into the gorge, clearly the people inside were looking for them. At this moment, Linley willed his divine sense to spread outwards, sending it into that sickle-shaped metallic life form to investigate within. Oh, 4 high gods. One of them, that grim, black-haired elder, that should be the Lord Prefect of Skymount, Molda Moerda. Linley had previously received a book from Beirut regarding the experts of the various planes. Molda was listed in that book. Can it be that Molda has come to avenge his son? Linley sighed mentally. He sighed at how Molda was not amenable to reason. Although Linley had yet to use his full power, the power Linley had displayed at Eustone Castle, and then yet again when Linley had dealt with Bonan, was at a level beyond that which ordinary Lord Prefects might be capable of. Molda should have predicted that Linley's true power was greater than this. Why was it that he still dared to come? Was Molda very powerful? Based on what Linley knew, though, although Molda was an emissary of the Blood-Ridge Sovereign, and in possession of a sovereign artifact, in terms of power, he was a good deal weaker than the likes of Rice Gem, Hammers, and the like. "Linley, what's going on?" Olivier walked over, worried. "It is the Lord Prefect of Skymount, Molda." Linley said softly. "No need to worry. Him." Hearing this, Diana was startled, but when she thought about how powerful Linley was, she relaxed. The enormous metallic life form that had been hovering roughly 10 meters above them suddenly vanished, revealing 4 individuals hovering there in midair. The leader, that black-haired elder, had a cold, hard face, and eyes that flashed like knives. Just by standing there, he gave off the aura of being an enormous, growling beast, prepared to attack at any moment. On his right arm, he was wearing that bracelet, which had those 9 green pearls studded into it. Carrying a bracelet. Linley rarely saw people wearing bracelets. After all, when experts battled, they would generally wear some sort of armor, so a bracelet wouldn't be of much use. Still, there was still a very small minority of people who wore them, some, because of ancestral customs, others, because of local styles. Others just liked them. In short, Linley was slightly surprised, but then he paid no more mind to it. The Lord Prefect of Skymount, Molda, swept Linley's group with his cold gaze. He looked like a mighty lion staring at 5 little sheep. The white-browed man behind Molda bowed respectfully and said, "Lord Prefect, of the 5, that man with long white-black hair is Olivier. It was he who killed young Master Bonin. The most powerful person in that group, however, is that brown-haired man. It was he who bound the young master, giving Olivier the chance to kill him. I don't know his name." Lord Prefect Molda of Skymount gave Olivier a glance, then turned to stare at Linley. "Do you know that Bonin is my son?" Molda growled. "I know," Linley said calmly. Molda's aura was astonishing, but to Linley, he was like a small dog yipping and baring its fangs at a giant. "Hey, you are that Lord Prefect Molda of Skymount." Bibi began to laugh. "We spanked the young one, and now the old one comes. The boss and I are about to go back right now. If you don't plan on doing anything, then beat it. If you want to get revenge for your son, then stop wasting our time and attack already. After dealing with you, we'll need to hurry home. We're in a rush." Impudence. Molda was focused on Linley, he held Bibi in no regard. But these words by Bibi instantly enraged him. Rumble. The air seemed to explode as Molda charged leisurely towards Bibi, his right hand forming a claw which slashed through the air, easily ripping space itself apart. Crackle, the claw howled through the air as it struck. Linley frowned slightly. Instantly, a blurry, indistinct figure appeared in front of Molda. At the same time, with a bang sound, Molda's head was viciously kicked, and Molda himself was sent flying away by this kick, moving like a meteor as he smashed into the side of the mountain, several tens of meters away. With a booming sound, a giant spiderweb of cracks appeared on the mountainside, with a large, human-shaped hole at the center of the spiderweb. Book 20, The Crown's Riddle, Chapter 12, Not Dead. "Haha, you old fart, what makes you think you can act so arrogantly?" Bibi bent over in laughter, clutching at his belly. As for the 3 subordinates of Molda, they turned their heads, staring, stunned, at the human-shaped hole in the distant mountainside. Their Lord Prefect had actually been knocked flying in an instant. Rumble, the mountainside trembled, and rocks fell everywhere. A human figure flew out, emerging from the mountainside, then landed on the ground of the gorge. Molda's body wasn't damaged at all. His focused gaze fell on Linley, and he said in a low voice, "I didn't act against you, and yet you sneak attacked me? Humph, your speed isn't bad. But your power is a bit weak." Power, weak. Linley knew that Molda was just engaging in braggadocio, because the sovereign artifact Molda was in possession of was a defensive sovereign artifact. Naturally, Linley wouldn't be able to kick him to death with one kick. Molda knew very well that Linley's kick was extremely powerful, but he believed that Linley sneak attacked him because Linley wasn't that much stronger than him. Even if Linley was a bit stronger, that was fine, because he was in possession of that miraculous bracelet. This bracelet filled him with boundless confidence. "Let's not waste any more time. Go ahead and attack." Linley was still smiling calmly, not feeling the slightest bit of concern or nervousness. Molda frowned, his eyebrows turning steely. He laughed coldly, "Since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish." Bang! A surge of black light erupted out of Molda's body, exploding forth. It was destruction-type Sovereign's might. After using sovereign power, Molda could sense power swelling in him, which made him feel all the more confident. Molda gave a confident, cold laugh. Then suddenly moved. He was like a bolt of black lightning. Harg! Molda's right leg viciously chopped down towards Linley like a hatchet. Ryip! Space itself was ripped apart by this kick, and wherever Molda's leg passed by, a terrifyingly large spatial tear appeared. Molda, being in possession of a defensive sovereign artifact, could use his entire body as a weapon. Linley just smiled, then charged forward, his body moving like an illusion. Die! Molda's kick pierced directly through Linley's body, but in the instant that it did, Molda's face suddenly changed. Wait, that's not his body. Molda's guess was correct, that was just an afterimage Linley had left behind after moving. Linley's body was actually directly behind Molda. Linley stretched out his hand, forming it into a claw as he grabbed directly at Molda's left leg. No. Molda felt a terrifying power suddenly constrict around the joints of his left leg, and his face couldn't help but change. Your speed is too slow. Linley's voice echoed out within the gorge, and as it did, Linley grabbed Molda by his left leg, then, like snapping a whip, sent Molda smashing against the ground. He whipped Molda into the ground time and time again, smashing him down viciously. Bang! 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 The floor of the valley trembled violently, as one giant, deep crater after another appeared. The collision force was so powerful that it even caused the rocky ground to transform into dust, down to a depth of 10 meters or even deeper. Multiple enormous tears in the ground appeared, joining together and resulting in a terrifyingly deep crevice being formed. How can this be? Linley's power wasn't held back at all. After having been whipped about lightning fast like this, Molda was beginning to grow dizzy. In an instant, Linley had smashed Molda into the ground more than 100 times, and then, with a powerful sideways toss, he sent Molda flying, like a rock from a slingshot. Molda shot deep into the mountainside, creating yet another man-shaped hole. The white-browed man and the other two watched, stupefied. Uncle Linley is so powerful. Dea's eyes were shining. He is indeed terrifyingly strong. Oliver's eyes were gleaming. He, too, was a person who sought perfection. Upon seeing the power that Linley had displayed, he too felt stunned. What's his name, Molda? I'm puzzled. What the hell was he thinking? He dared to fight my boss. Although my boss didn't reveal much of his power, the speed he displayed earlier should have made it so that Molda would have known to retreat. BB mumbled. He just has a defensive sovereign artifact. What is there for him to be smug about? BB was puzzled by the fact that Molda hadn't retreated. Bastard! A furious bellow rang out from the mountainside. Bang! Molda once more charged out. After having been thrown about earlier, Molda's rage had risen to a breaking point. His eyes were scarlet, and he stared angrily at Linley while growling, "Punk, do you rely merely on speed alone? Humph. That bit of attack power you have isn't able to wound me at all." Molda was growing frantic, but up till now, he still believed that Linley was just relying on his speed. Linley's attacks weren't necessarily stronger than his. Oh. Linley's face sank. Since you want to die, don't blame me. After reaching his current level of power, Linley would rarely act to kill ordinary commanders. This was because, for Linley to act against commanders would be an absolute massacre. It would be a form of abuse. Linley had simply wanted to teach Molda a lesson and have him F***ck off, but Molda seemed to be quite confident in his power. Linley couldn't help but begin to grow angry. Haha, if you are able to kill me, then do so. Molda laughed wildly, and then, launching himself from the ground, he charged towards Linley, carrying the power of a mountain. Molda's right hand was like a sword, piercing through space and shooting towards Linley. Whap! Linley struck out, lightning fast. Fist against fist. Molda was knocked flying back. After landing, he stared at Linley in disbelief. How can you didn't use Sovereign's might. How could you have blocked my punch? Molda was very confident in his own strength, and he had also used a drop of Sovereign's might. And yet, he was actually knocked flying back by Linley. Your punch? Compared to Hammers, you are quite lacking. Linley said calmly. Hammers. Molda frowned, but then he seemed to think of something, as he began to laugh coldly. Your power isn't bad. Then taste my soul attack. Molda's face turned solemn, and then he opened his mouth. Swish. A translucent ripple, shaped like a blade of wind, shot at high speed towards Linley. Die, then. Linley no longer showed any mercy, and he growled as he attacked. A single void wave sword ripple shot out from Linley's body, the size of an ordinary long sword. It smashed onto that translucent wind blade, and with a bang, tore through it like rotting wood. The translucent wind blade disappeared, while Linley's void wave sword ripple just decreased a small bit in size. Molda's face changed dramatically. He seemed to want to say something, but it was too late. The void wave sword ripple silently and soundlessly entered Molda's body. Linley's most powerful type of attack was his soul attacks. Even compared to a paragon of fate, he could be said to be on roughly the same level. How could an ordinary Lord Prefect possibly block Linley's soul attack? Molda's body trembled, and then his gaze grew dim as he slowly collapsed. Lord Prefect, the white-browed man and the other two were shocked. Their Lord Prefect had died, just like that. This Molda didn't know his own limits. He really was seeking death. BB snorted. Linley turned and walked towards Olivier and the others. Laughing calmly, he said, "Let's go." Linley. Oliver's face changed as he let out a cry of alarm, staring behind Linley, stunned. HRM. Linley turned his head, puzzled. Lord Prefect Molda, who should have been dead, actually once more rose to his face. His eyes were flashing as he stared at Linley, stunned. Who are you? Linley looked back at him, also stunned. You didn't die. Just now, he had clearly seen Molda be struck by his attack, and then collapse. His eyes had turned glassy and lifeless. How had he come back to life? Boss, this old fellow didn't die. That's odd. BB called out. It was indeed quite odd. If Molda had a soul-protecting sovereign artifact, then he shouldn't have reacted at all to Linley's soul attack. But just now, Molda had clearly collapsed, and yet, moments later, he had completely recovered and was completely fine. This was indeed bizarre. His soul attack is this powerful, and his material attacks are so strong as well, and he is so fast, he has no weaknesses at all. Molda was stunned. You are a paragon? Which paragon of the Infernal Realm? Molda said. Aside from paragons, Molda couldn't think of any other possibilities. You are Mr. Linley. Molda actually guessed the truth right away. Truthfully, that wasn't surprising. There were only 3 individuals in the Infernal Realm who were suspected of being paragons. Molda had acquired information on the other 2 long ago. As for Linley, he had just risen to prominence 2 centuries ago after the Planar War. The Infernal Realm was simply too vast, and so in the past 2 centuries, news about him hadn't spread everywhere just yet. Although Molda had run into an old friend who had informed about Linley, all Molda had learned was Linley's name, and the fact that he was a member of the Azure Dragon clan who was capable of dragon forming. As for Linley's appearance, he had no idea. Yes, I am Linley. Linley laughed calmly. Paragon Linley. Molda's 3 subordinates were utterly terrified as well. Their Lord Prefect had actually attempted to take revenge upon a paragon. Wasn't this suicide? They were stunned, but Molda was both stunned and enraged. That punk, Bonin, is just a 6-star fiend. No matter how much trouble he causes, how could he have gotten a paragon involved? Molda was incomprehensibly angry and shocked. He knew that the enemy was fairly powerful, but Bonin was just a 6-star fiend, after all. Molda believed, that at most, the enemy would be a Lord Prefect level expert. A paragon? Using a paragon to deal with his son was a waste of talent. How few paragons did the entire Infernal Realm have? Just 3, and that was including Linley. How could there be such a coincidence? If it had been Dunnington or the other one, Molda would have immediately recognized him and given up. Unfortunately, it just so happened to be Linley. Linley was a paragon who had just recently risen to sudden prominence, and he didn't have any accurate information about Linley at all. His son had actually managed to offend a paragon. Molda's luck really was quite terrible. This, Mr. Linley, I apologize. Molda forced out a smile. Since it is you, Mr. Linley, then I'll leave now. Leave now? If my boss was weak, he would have been killed by you, and the rest of us would have as well, right? BB barked. It's too late for you to leave now. I am quite curious. How is it that you were hit by my technique but didn't die? Linley looked at this Lord Prefect, Molda. Molda's face changed dramatically. Not hesitating at all, with a swish, he rose into the skies, intending to flee. Against a paragon like Linley, even if Linley wasn't able to kill him, he would be able to control a spatial tier and shove Molda into it. Molda didn't believe that his sovereign would waste any time or effort in entering chaotic space to save him. Linley blinked, and 2 void wave sword ripples shot towards Molda, who was in mid-flight. No matter how fast he moved, how could he move faster than a soul attack? The 2 void wave sword ripples entered Molda's body, and instantly, Molda's formerly flying body became powerless. He once more fell down from the skies, smashing onto the ground. But just an instant later, Molda actually once more flipped to his feet. Queer. How queer? Linley began to laugh. If you have a soul-protecting sovereign artifact, you shouldn't feel a thing from my soul attack. But clearly, you don't have one. But if you don't have one, how could it be that you are able to survive repeated soul attacks from me? Linley didn't understand. Mr. Linley, no, Lord Linley. Molda's face changed dramatically. He was confident in his ability to escape anyone besides a paragon, but paragons, they were strong in every aspect, without any flaws. It really is strange. Linley frowned, puzzled. Swish. Swish. 2 more void wave sword ripples shot out, once more entering Molda's body. Molda's eyes immediately became lifeless, and he once more fell onto the ground. This time, Linley used his divine sense to keep a close watch on Molda, carefully inspecting Molda for any changes. Linley's divine sense thoroughly filled every single part of Molda's body. It was extremely forceful and dominating. Molda's eyes opened, and he once more regained consciousness. So that's how it is. Linley finally discovered where the secret lay. Lord Prefect, the white-browed man and the other 2, seeing the situation was turning grim, hurriedly fled, leaving behind only Molda himself. After regaining consciousness, the first thing Molda saw was Linley walking towards him. His face changed dramatically, and he suddenly tunneled underground. Haha, you won't be able to escape. Linley laughed loudly, and then his body suddenly appeared next to Molda, and he grabbed Molda by the shoulders. Linley's other hand then grabbed at Molda's bracelet. No. Feeling Linley grab the bracelet, the Lord Prefect of Skymount instantly grew frantic, but Linley gave his left hand a forceful tug, and with a crack, the bracelet shattered as the 9 green pearls flew into Linley's hand. The reason why you were able to survive despite being hit by me multiple times has something to do with these 9 soul pearls, yes. Linley glanced at him. Seeing that Linley held the soul pearls in his hand, the Lord Prefect's face instantly turned ashen.